on the roll. Ain't no just too late. Look at me, this is my life. Follow me, this is showtime.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the fastest rising podcast in all of pro wrestling, the Tuck Your Chin podcast. Today, we're back again with another special interview, and it's gonna be a big one. It's a good one. It hits me right here in the heart. First, I'm gonna bring in the sickest and dumbest motherfucker I know, Steep Nine.
That's right. It's Steep 9 now, no longer just Steep. And this is the Tuck Your Chin podcast, the fastest rising podcast in all of professional wrestling. Because don't be mad, because we're back.
Dear Jesus.
Hell yes.
Oh my.
You gonna announce the next person?
Yeah, Steep Nine will go. Next, I'm gonna bring in the clown of this podcast, Mr. Evan. Hello.
Hello, greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be here. This is a considerably special episode, and we're going to be just having a gosh dang blast.
Next,
Don't laugh at me, Mike. I will slap your shaven head. I'm kidding.
Froze.
Uh-oh.
Cassie. No, they're here. James, Cassie, hello.
Hi,
What's up?
this is James from the Tuck Your Chin podcast. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited for today's episode. I'm really interested in meeting and learning about our guest today. This is my wife, Cassie.
Hello.
Yeah, she's on our second episode, and we're stoked to be here. We're excited to learn a lot today.
Yeah. Last and not least, making his return from the shadows, Antwan.
What's up, everybody? It's a pleasure to be back on the Tuck Your Chin podcast. I hope you all enjoy this incredible interview that we're going to have with the esteemed guest right here, Mr. Nick Curry.
Well, he introduced you already. Nick, hello.
Hey, how's everybody doing, man? I tell you what, no blowing smoke. I'm more than blessed to be on the podcast because, the quarantine's got everybody down around the whole world. It sucks. Life is not life. And sometimes, we get our hopes up and then they come down and then we think things are going back to normal, but we all got to play it safe. And I think everybody is doing a good part. So I just want to say, hey, thank you to the emergency services and out there, and just thankful for you guys for giving me this uplifting experience to, to talk and to meet new friends, dude. This is incredible. Like, all jokes aside, it's really something special. And I'm really honored, seriously, to talk about the past and talk about the future, and then, hopefully spread a little bit of perspective. So hello to the new Tuck Your Chin podcast friends, man, and I'm ready to get this party started.
Yeah. So should I hit them with the story time, Nick, on how we crossed?
You want a story? I'm here.
I tell you what, you guys can play it however which way you want, and I'll just react off of whatever you guys got, man. Any way you want to go.
I'll tell the story, and then I guess I'll let Steve go after I tell the story. So so there was a promotion that's still around today. That's not happening, obviously, because of COVID is wanted to pull up for a little while. Big Time Wrestling, and there was a show in Farmingdale, NY, and I went, and it was Danny Miles, I think. Did I fuck that up, or was it Danny Miles?
It was Danny Miles. Yes, it was.
And then next thing I know, Headstrong plays, and that guy comes out. And I'm like, this guy is one of the best heels I've ever seen. He just pissed everyone off as soon as he came out.
Yeah.
And I tried to find out who you were, dude. I couldn't actually find out until I bought the they do the online shows, like you could buy it online, the shows. And I'm like, oh, Kid Curry. I was watching some of your stuff, dude. So yeah, and now we have a podcast. And
yeah, dude. I mean, all right. So story time for that. So that's like kind of like a big deal. That was a big deal for me. because that was kind of like the summer when I just got out of college. You know, I went to technical school for like energy systems and technology. So that's pretty much commercial, industrial, and residential HVAC. So it was kind of like a big breakthrough. It was after the wrestling season, and you know, I had kind of like had high hopes, and I was like full of a lot of pea and vinegar. You know what I mean? So I had a few matches, about 10 matches, you know, on the indies prior to that. Then when I got that call, you know, a wrestling historian by the name of Tom Burke was able to get me into that and into those shows because he was very close friends with a wrestling fan and a wrestling promoter named Terry Allen, you know, and Terry Allen's a good guy. You know, he, you know, was present even back, you know, into the late 70s and early 80s doing certain little spot things, you know, working for D Texas, you know, promotions out there. And it was pretty neat because big time wrestling is synonymous with like wrestling from the past, and where they got that name from was from the Tony Santos, Jack Pfeffer, you know, promotion, which, you know, was pretty much a tycoon in the era of, you know, like the 30. Well, the whole history and background of it would probably take way too long to tell, but he was a tycoon. If, you know, anybody listening now, you can go back and look it up. So for me, my grandfather was a big part of that. Guys like Frankie Sexton, Bull Curry. I mean, I actually have one right here. It's actually, let me grab it. It's right on the mantle.
Steve, plug something real quick.
If you haven't already, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, download 6ix9ine's new song.
I tell you what, I don't know. I listened to it. I have some conflictions on it.
You like it?
All right, but this is actually one of those posters, and this is Frankie Sexton, and this is like, you know, for the United States, their version of the United States Championship. It also has, I mean, for not Sexton, Scarpa, Frankie Scarpa, and this was in the Boston Arena. So I mean, this is kind of like, you know, a big piece for me. But to get to the story, I was booked in Lynn, Massachusetts, and I had to wrestle a guy named Antonio Thomas, who wrestled as the Heartthrobs on WWE. Now he wrestles on as Thomas Santel on like Beyond Wrestling and Limitless and stuff like that. He you know, and I wrestled him when he was doing that gimmick. We were the first match. I pulled up in there in my old singlet, you know, my high school wrestling singlet. I went to, you know, to the USA Nationals for, and I tucked it in, and I had some hokey little long high socks and some wrestling shoes. But the way I kind of freaked it, it looked halfway decent. But dude, it was very awkward seeing all those many people. It was like 500 people like right there, and it was like, it was hot, you know. And when I went into the back room, you know, I see Mick Foley, and I'm like, you know, and then if you remember me, or if you see me now, I kind of have the bushy hair. So when everybody went in there, they looked at me like I was like some type of the headless horseman, because they thought I was Ben Askren. The people thought I was Ben Askren. He's like, what the hell, you wrestle now, dude? I'm like, and then like someone was like, yo, what's up, Ben? I'm like, oh, how you doing, bro? You know, and then I didn't resonate until I'm like, no, man, this is Curry and everything like that. So Terry points, I see Mick Foley going like this to me, kind of like looking like a sorcerer. And I'm like, no. So he says, what's your name? I said, you know, Nick Curry. So then he laughs, kind of like, almost like a Gandalf laugh. And he asked me where my eyebrows were. And I'm like, dude, what is this happening? So then he tells me about how he used to watch him when he was a kid and watch him back in the, you know, the day, and like how it kind of like was a whole big deal. And then he asked me about my father. My father happened to be in the crowd. So he went out and went to go talk to him, and it was pretty neat. But to this subject, I'm out there. I wrestled this match with Antonio Thomas. It's a tough match. I mean, you could feel it everywhere. You know, like if you got any little glimpse of self-doubt, it turns up to 1,000. But it's such a surreal feeling when you're in that ring that a lot of things you don't really see and resonate. But I was able to, convey the crowd a little bit to like gain enough, you know, sympathy for me. And towards the end, when I kind of like made that comeback, and I remember I think the finish to it was I went to shoot for a drop kick. He missed it, got me for a German suplex, and I ended up wheelbarrowing him. Last 10, it was a 1, 2, 3, the whole place popped. And I was like, dude, you know, like my heart was on fire. I went out and it was like, yes, you know, like, oh my God. And it's funny because that was the first time I met Road Warrior, you know, Animal. And he was all like, looking like he looked like he could be a bodyguard somewhere for like some billionaire, you know. So I didn't want to say anything to him because I didn't want him to rip my head off or anything like that. saw him give me a look, and it was one of those. I'm like, okay, things are going good. I went into the back. I thanked everybody, and I just lived off of that adrenaline rush. And just so happened the next day I had to wrestle in, Farmingdale. So I ended up going, up there. And when I went up there, I knew that I was going to have to wrestle the Steiners and the Dudley boys.
Oh
and
yeah, shit! I forgot about. Yeah, you did the main event too. Yep.
Dude, they told me it's going to be crazy. Someone's going to get thrown through this. They're going to go through tables, and it's going to be, nuts. I'm like, well, I'm about 175 pounds, and these guys are legitimate animals. So this is how this is going to go. Great. So then they hit me 15 minutes before start. I was like, hey, the competitor, which I think it was Toto Loco, had a concussion. He couldn't, so I had to fill the spot. And you're with Danny Miles. And that's like, Danny Miles. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, Danny's good. He's a good, nice guy, everything like that. Because, for me being such a rookie and so green, regardless of talent, regardless of the name, dude, being on a show like that, there's a lot of people like, dude, you're going to fold, you're not ready for that, and everybody has their well reasons. Back then I used to get a little bit like, have a little bit of angst about it because I thought it was like a personal attack. But as you get older, you can see things, from the past, and you can kind of like see the notions. So 15 minutes before the match starts, they tell me I have to wrestle Danny. I can't find him anywhere. I ended up finding him later on, and then I'm going through it, and it's like, you have to be the heel. Dude, never wrestled heel a day in my life. Make no mistake. I watch all the good guys. I watch all the bad guys from all different eras. Dude, I have an encyclopedia of people to watch because you could pick up little things from everybody, and you can reinvent, and it's like, that's why I love wrestling, because there's so many different little flavors, and all the flavors work, and they always have throughout history. People have their negative condemnations about comedy wrestling. It's always been there. But anyways, I go wrestle heel. I'm like, man, what the hell am I going to do? So I remember me being a heel when I was a kid in lacrosse, and I was like nuclear heat heel. And I used to, and that was when I was marking out big time over Fritz von Erich. So I used to do his goose walk. So I, came right out of football and wrestling. So I'm in lacrosse, and this is like an elegant man sport. We're playing against like Griswold, Darien, and like Greenwich, Connecticut. These are all billionaire child, so they're not used to the smash mouth and the tough stuff. So like I remember I would shoulder block one of these guys and like decimate them, and then I'd do the Von Erich walk, and then everybody would be on a knee, and I'd still be doing the Von Erich walk, and I was getting so much heat from so many different people. So I said, hey, maybe I'll just do the little goose walk, and maybe I'll just tell everybody they suck, and then I'll just play it off the vibe and just do how it went. So it kind of gave me the feeling like it was almost like, all right, now you got to survive. And it was a long walk, and I really didn't know how to play it, but I just played it by the heart, dude, and from what I knew. And like, it was actually a great experience. And my father always tells me, like, I tell you what, now you're getting older and you're doing a few things I'd like to see you as a bad guy, because he has his plans for me, and he'd love to see, he'd love to see me in, he would love to see me in like on an AEW spectrum or something like that. And he always says, like, since Cody's that, baby faces, you as a heel would probably be a thing. But it was a great experience. I remember when I got in there, everybody was hitting me with the hit the gym, because I'm a little bit scrawny. So I was like biting my thumb, I'm like just trying not to laugh. I'm like acting, and I'm like, I'm punching. It just was so funny because they were getting me to pop a little bit here and there. And it was like of course, the people who's yelling, hit the gym, have no right to tell anybody to hit the gym. So it just was great, man. It was a great deal. I think there was even one point in the match where I rolled out and I grabbed someone's water, drank some of it, and I flashed it at everybody, and I threw it at a little kid, and it was halfway like filled. So the little kid picks it up and he throws it back at me. So then the crowd pops. It's like, whoa. So, dude, I turn around like I'm going to like kind of like initiating something, and it's no BS about it. The ground is slippery because the match before me had some water or something. That I almost literally did a front split and like tore my hamstring. So everybody even popped up more. So I ended up rolling into the ring, and then Danny Miles hit me with an arm drag, dude. I felt like I was like, I felt like, whoa, like, is this actually happening? It kind of reminded me in one of those things like when I used to do amateur wrestling, and I was like, you're with that real tough guy, and then something goes, and it's like, was that me? Did that happen? And it's almost like a surreal feeling. But I just remember it was a great match.
Yeah.
I reacted the best I could, and like I really put a lot of pride into it. And I really had, a lot of nice words said to me by, like Animal and by, like Striker. And I felt like, I was able to compliment all the, the worthy greats that have passed, because that's kind of like what it's about for me, live, not necessarily living up to like, well, of course, you want to live up to the father, you want to live up to the grandfather, but it's more so I'd like to compliment them, because a lot of things I did were little quirks off of guys like Gene Stanley, quirks off of guys like Mark Lewin, the Sheik, my grandfather, Magnificent Maurice, Johnny Barron, a lot of different people that a lot of people, don't know about and naturally have been forgotten because, various reasons. And it's just, for me, it was like, maybe I should listen to my dad and listen to those guys because, it worked and it was different. So it was a great feeling, it was a surreal feeling. It really was a surreal feeling. It was great, man. And I'm glad obviously I must have did pretty good because, now I'm in contact with you guys. So, and then this gets to, this is like kind of like crazy, man, 2 years later. And this is where we are. But yeah, man, that's my side of the story on it. So I figure after doing a lot of talking, I'll let you guys talk. There you go.
Yeah. Dude, thank you. I forgot about the water spot and you in that 8-man tag. Fuck.
Are you marking?
Yeah.
What?
Are you marking out over there?
Yeah, just a bit. That was like my first indie show, to be honest. Like that was my first indie show. And that was the first match I saw.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it hits hard, man. Evan, I'll let you start with a question because you always got the questions.
Okay, all right. So, Nick, I wasn't actually the most familiar with you until recently. When Mike and myself and every other member of the podcast described, like, okay, we're going to be sitting down with this one guy named Nick Curry, I was like, I don't know who that is, but I'll go and like binge watch this person's matches and get a good understanding of who they are and stuff. And I did that like yesterday. I went back and watched all your matches, and I noticed that you're massively technical. Who, as a technical wrestler, inspired you? Like, I mean, maybe somebody like Kurt Angle or Daniel Bryan or somebody like that.
All right, so one of my idols, like who I like kind of have like that complete crush on, as far as like, I'm a big fan of like, I mean, we grew up in the generation of video games. So in Red Dead Revolver, when we played multiplayer, I played as, Night Wolf. In Mortal Kombat, I always played as the Indian. I love the Indian culture. I think it's amazing, dude. That's why I love being in Connecticut, because it's I literally, the other day, I went up to Talcott Mountain, and I climbed into the cave of King Philip, where he burned down Simsbury, in the French and Indian War. And it was like a feeling. My most favorite technical wrestler and a guy that really, inspired me is Jack Briscoe. I mean, I put him at I love Jack Briscoe. I think Jack Briscoe is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, bar any generation, bar any guy ever. I mean, that guy first off, he's a legit badass. Second off, he's an Indian war chief. Third off, dude, like that guy is like, if you look at the amateur wrestling culture and you look at Oklahoma and you know of Danny Hodge, and I'll have a Danny Hodge story for you guys too. So you look at Danny Hodge and you look at like everybody who's a wrestler, the big badasses come from Oklahoma State. You go against one of those guys, you're not in for a 30-second, a 3-minute. You're in for a fight to the death. Like those guys are like they're just bred different, and they've been doing it for so long. They got all the different little quirks. So me, I am a huge Briscoe mark, and like I remember I first got put onto him by my father because they were tag team partners in the 60s and into the 70s. And then they tagged up in Australia, and they also tagged up in, for WWF in the 70s. So Jack Briscoe, watching his matches against Dory Funk, watching his matches against pretty much everybody, especially his 70s matches. And that's a big, he is definitely a big influence. Big influences, come on, man, Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid, dude. I mean, I remember I still have the Nintendo 64 where I have like the old, and I always used to do the backflip over the middle ropes and over the turnbuckle. That's where I got it from, dude. Tiger Mask, that's the guy. I tell you, dude, if I could, in Halloween, or if I could ever be a character and I turn into a beast, and it's like where you put on a black mask to raise hell, I'd put on the Tiger Mask and just let loose, because in a video game. So it's like, it's just those guys. But I mean, I wasn't, when I first got into wrestling, I was going everywhere with my brother to watch him wrestle. So my big idol was Sabu. I thought Sabu was he's the greatest thing of all time. I thought, because he's related to the Sheik, and there's such a strong family tie and everything like that. But when I gained to be about like 13, 12 years old, I started stumbling downstairs, into these scrapbooks, into these treasure troves of like wrestling history. And then I went from like literally from like the 1930s to the 70s, and then I realized exactly who everybody was. And that's what kind of like taught me about people and taught me about somewhat of the business. So one of the guys that my father was a technical wrestler, and one of the people that inspired him was Argentina Rocca, Larry Shane, Dory Dixon, who is one of the best black wrestlers ever. He's like one of the best aerial artists ever, was a top draw. And I believe, I know that the Black Panther, Jim Mitchell, was also wrestling in the 30s, breaking race barriers. But I mean, Dory Dixon, Sailor Art Thomas, Bobo Brazil, those type of guys were like pivotal points in the 50s for breaking the race barrier and stuff like that. And they were baby faces too. So I mean, that just speaks volumes. So Dory Dixon's up there. I mean, Dory Funk Jr. But people a little bit more recent. I tell you what, man, wrestling is so thick with like talent. It's hard for me to point a few guys out. But when it comes to the recent, I mean, my father's favorite wrestler is AJ Styles right now. And he always says, man, I wish I could work that kid. We'd tear the whole house down. I said, and he always says that. He says, man, I got, so that's his deal. But I mean, man, Okada is incredible. I wasn't completely fond of Zack Sabre Jr. at first, but he grew on me, because you got to respect talent no matter what.
That guy folds people up like fucking pretzels. It's crazy.
Very, very high conditioned. I mean, he's great, dude. But I mean, right now I can't really draw too many names. Those are a couple. But another big influence is a guy from the past. His name was Edouard Carpentier. He's a big legend out in Canada. They still talk about him to this day. I actually met a truck driver the other day. We were talking wrestling. I told him who my grandfather was. He was like, holy shit, no way. So he didn't believe me. He says, you got blonde hair. He says, but you know what? He says, you obviously seem to know. And we even talked about Carpentier, because he's where my dad got to kick the hand and do the cartwheel into the arm ringer. And that's where I got to kick the hand, cartwheel, arm ringer, and all that stuff. And that's where I kind of like get my mojo from. So those are some guys. But Briscoe, Carpentier, Leaping Larry Shane, guys of that nature is kind of who inspired me. Obviously, Luthez and all the other great shooters of the past, the John Pesicks, the Strangler Lewis, it's the culture behind it. Obviously those are the idols. But for my direct inspirations, yeah, Briscoe, Larry Shane, Dory Dixon, Argentina Rocca. Throwbacks, brother. I don't do patrol. Like I don't do Jameson, man. It's all Exos, and it's all all the old stuff, man. Extra old. That's how I like it. That's how I like my whiskey. That's how I like my rest.
Oh hell yeah.
Antwan.
All right. As you was growing up watching wrestling, what was one person or one decision that led that ultimate? What was the one thing that led to your decision on becoming a wrestler?
Man, that's
That's already, Antwan.
That's actually a pretty good one. I feel like an upside down tree of a bunch of little sparks that led to the initial push, if that makes any sense. But I'll really put it to, I mean, always been a lifelong fan, always been a part of one facet or another. I think one moment that got me to really say, man, I could do this, or like this is possible, is I'd be playing the SmackDown versus Raw games or the Raw games and stuff like that. Then my brother got his dark matches for WWE, and I remember we went down to Stanford, and like I saw, like the Big V, Vince McMahon, and I saw like all these other like I think it was Mark Henry there, maybe even, and I remember a couple other guys that weren't in gimmicks, so I couldn't really tell, but I knew they were wrestlers. And I remember I was playing about like eight beagles. They had like 8 beagles down there. There was a bunch of little basset hounds and beagles, and I was playing with them all. And it just was. But as far as like, I mean, going to indie shows and seeing like Kazarian and Daniels on there, to seeing John Cena on the matches before they, broke onto the mainstream media and stuff like that. That was one thing, but I remember the first greatest match in my head that I watched was Hulk Hogan versus The Rock in WrestleMania 18, I think it was. Is that one? That sent me through. And The Rock was my idol when I grew up because the Scorpion King, the nip up, the body, that dude's like the man. And the connection, because my father wrestled with Rocky Johnson, and they, the connection that way. In fact, we actually have some old reels, and there's some footage like floating around on YouTube and on the network where, like The Rock will be in the stands or like be in the crowd like during the matches. And I remember my brother Freddie, was in the crowd on a few certain matches. And I remember he saw him and he spread some memories about it. So that pretty much, that's not very the most direct answer, but like watching The Rock and like going and seeing certain wrestlers live, and then like actually going in the ring before the matches and doing a whole bunch of stuff, and then trying a whole bunch of things. I remember the first time I ever threw a drop kick was in my backyard. My dad was like, "You can't throw a drop kick." He's like, "I could throw a drop kick better than Freddie," because I was always like, "Oh, I could do that better than Freddie," because I wanted Freddie to be like that guy. Obviously, with my big brother, I'm the little kid. I'm like, I want you to be that guy. Like I wish I could have coached him, but obviously it wouldn't. But I remember the first time I threw a drop kick was in my backyard. And my dad's like, "Oh," he's like, "Do that again." So I started showing it. And then I remember when we went to Jason Knight's wrestling school out in Waterbury, when he had it, that's when I started hitting the drop kicks on like the guys on the knees, and it was like the right angle. It wasn't straight 90 degrees. It was about a 65 degrees. So it was like, those were pretty much some big moments into me wanting to really get into it and thinking like, hey, I could do this and I want to do this.
Yeah. So growing up, were you during the Monday Night War, were you a WWF or WCW guy? Not sure if you watched that stuff.
I knew nothing about WCW until after the fact, until I started to really get into it. Because, I mean, Hartford, Connecticut, I'm not saying we didn't get WCW because I knew who Goldberg was, but if you're from Connecticut, you were watching Raw. I mean, you were watching like SmackDown. It's like, because it was so heavy. Like, all the billboards. I mean, we're right there. They were like their stronghold, and their headquarters is literally right like 47 minutes away. So it's like they had shows at the Civic Center. So it was like that's where the whole culture was moved towards. That's where that all that stuff was moved towards. Like and kind of like geared towards. So I didn't get familiar with WCW until after. Which is kind of a shame because that's where the roots are. It's the roots of the family, NWA. The NWA, and that's. But yeah, no, it was always WWF, man. Forever, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's interesting that you said that you draw inspiration from Briscoe, because the match that I found of you, the match I was watching before we got on the podcast was of you versus Trigger the OG for XWA in a promotion called XWA.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful drop kick, by the way. That is an amazing drop kick. The fact that you learned it in the backyard, I was like, that was one of the questions I was asking you. How did you get that drop kick? But regardless, I find it interesting because I think they referred to you as a strong comparison to him in commentary during the match.
Yeah.
I
That
was
was
like,
a heart warmer, man. That was a heart warmer. That was
Yeah.
truly hard because I watched that, and it's like, like that match was somewhat of it was a really good match. It was an old school match, man, because it was like,
and I was gonna ask you, how was the transition from when I started the match? I was like, okay, very technically profound. Obviously comes from some type of amateur background, but then it totally transitioned into this, like, the way it ended with the leg drop and the roll. I mean, oh my, it was just amazing. And I was like, I was trying to pre-analyze, and I was totally blown away with where it went. The story, the big back body drop on the chairs. It was just great. And that's what I was asking, like, how was it for you to, like, get from that amateur, like, straight from college? It seems like you just jumped right into the pro wrestling circuit. And is there a transition period for you? Because obviously there's rules, there's different regulations when it comes to college and stuff like that. And pro wrestling, how was that transition? And what did you do to prepare for these types of matches as opposed to your college wrestling matches?
I mean, transitioning is hard for like various reasons, and the preparation is different but also very similar. But there's one thing, and I think that everybody who gets into wrestling that's a pre-athlete, a lot of people, they give wrestling kind of like a bad negative condemnation because they think it's just a work and it's it's fake and stuff like that. Dude, let me tell you something. I know like jiu-jitsu world champions, I know national champions in wrestling, I know boxers. Dude, when you hit those ropes and you put the whole package together, dude, that is a different animal altogether. It is very hard. Kurt Angle even talks about it. And it's not easy, man. I'm telling you, and one of the biggest things is I feel like I got an advantage in is when I would make a mistake or something happens, I just jump on it like it was a tiger, let it go through. Because, hey, man, it's not all about. In the old days, they never called anything. They just went out there and won it. They had a few little focal points and they knew stuff and they knew a few things going in and what the guys did. But a lot of times, a lot of it was very natural. And like, natural will always have its beauty.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that like I'm very happy and fortunate was I didn't get like the average. My training was very different. With my father, and it was hard, man. It was hard, and it's hard because it's like wrestling is different. You put in all the miles, you put in all the work. A lot of people don't see it, especially if you're training hard. And it's like, I done this, I done that. I have nothing to show for you. It's easy to get down on yourself. That's why it's a byproduct that people get jealous, envious, and nasty in the business. And but that's natural. That's natural to man, and that's natural into everything. And it's just one facet of it. But transitioning, I remember my first match, I was like a speed bullet demon. And that's kind of always been my, in sports, I was always able to do something hard and fast. Because when my grandfather would tell my father to do something, when he was fighting in the carnivals and he was a boxer, the note was to hit hard and to hit fast. And that's how you get your power, velocity, to hard and fast. So if there's anybody listening that's, doing anything as far as like football, throwing a ball, hitting a ball hard and fast. And it works, dude. For me, it worked. It triggered me to be able to get into that. But you have to retract the winds a little bit with wrestling. Wrestling's smooth, man. You got to be like a smooth character. You got to be able to flow from one thing to the other thing. It's good to be Mr. Hard Ass, but you got to be Mr. Finesse too. You got to be that cool kid in school that can get all, like, not to use that metaphor, but you got to be that cool kid in school that can talk his way out of like little troubles, or get that that shot in the dark date with that really hot girl. You know what I mean? It's kind of a different. You get a different.
I really understand that, because at the end of that match, I personally caught something something caught my eye that it was so organically done that I almost didn't catch it. The last spot in that particular match that I saw, you were kind of far from the corner, the turnbuckle, and I was so focused on him getting up there
that you rolled over, like the way you sold it was like a painful, like, oh, roll over. And it was just so beautifully done. And most people would just sloppily kind of drag them. I mean, I see it all the time, and it just drives me nuts when they don't take the time, like you said, to be smooth and to be like the like the Orton type of wrestling where it just flows, like you said. And that little pickup that you looked up at, I saw you look up at the turnbuckle and like, oh shit, I'm way too far. I gotta fix this real quick. And you did. And it was like it just went together so smoothly, and the finish was perfect. And I thought you were gonna go over and break out, and I was like, oh shit. But I mean, it was awesome. And that, like, you said it, and I was thinking it while I watched the match, and I'm like, dude, this dude is hitting every nail on the head. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's something my dad always would. It's not, when my grandfather came up in the era of wrestling, it was like a cutthroat killer era. You had to go in there, you were a shooter, or you were a badass, or you looked the part where someone could make money because they had all the big, they had all the mobsters were linked into the business. How they got, the venues, and they were able to petition for certain things. And that's where they'd give the dollar and the almighty dollar to the king. And if you know anything about, like, that type of organized crime and on that level of racketeering, they got, they can pull some votes for you. So it was in a total different ball game. So my grandfather, got it literally from the mud. His family came from Lebanon, and back then it was Syria. Like when they came over from the boat, my great grandmother cut all ties with the family back there, because the way they got over was like by bloodshed. It was war, and they just were able to, so we had a lot of, as they were all caravan raiders and robbers and, big cutthroats out there. So she was able to get lucky and to come over to America, in like 1895, with the family, a big family, and then my grandfather was born in, in 1913. He was the eldest of 5 children. And then he grew up right in the Depression era, right where all the big ethnicities were coming through. So then where, he wasn't able to fit in with the Irish crowd, the Polish crowd, any crowd except for the Arab crowd. And I feel like the Arab crowd has always had like it's always had some trouble, it's always been kind of somewhat hard on their luck. So through the byproduct of the Depression, their father left him when he was a young boy, about like 9-10 years old. So, and then he ended up getting expelled from school because, without a father, without things, you get into fights. You got into fights with teachers and stuff like that. Things happen, when you're dirt poor, and it's a time where you go 3-4 days without eating, and it was very hard for him to make it and to thrive. And what he had to do by the time he was 10 years old, 11 years old, he had to go to the carnivals and pitch horseshoes to get bread baskets for the family. He had to do a lot of things like that. And by the time he was 13, he was fighting for watches, and he would try to sell the watches for $1, couldn't make a penny. At least that's how this legend goes. So then he got in tune and hooked up with a few big time carnivals, few big time carnivals, and that's when he started taking on all comers for the fights and stuff like that. And it was like anybody can go past 3 5-minute rounds, you get $5. So they went to the coal mining camps, the lumberjack camps, and and those guys then were like all big burly guys. My grandfather was like a lanky little shooter. I actually have a couple pictures here I can share with the crowd. I think actually it might have them downstairs. I can grab them a little bit later. So obviously they, it was the underdog vibe, and it was kind of like a big hoax. They'd hoax the people in to come in for the fight, but then they had a buzzsaw behind the curtain, and they didn't know, So that transitioned to, because he had to look, darker and skinned, so it was something different, and he was just a different being altogether. So, they ended up giving him, a shot, like one of the promoters looked and said, hey, we could make some money with you. Why don't you come out and do wrestling? He says, man, I don't know nothing about wrestling. I just don't know nothing about that stuff. He says, don't worry about me. He says, you come over. He says, like, you give it a shot, and then I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you get some money, because he was a boxer and he wanted to be a professional boxer. But before he went into the wrestling business, he was 21-3 as a professional boxer. you know. So he was pursuing that. And his first match, he slept on top of a YMCA, and he had 2 cans of sardines. And he went in there and he started a riot his first match and became kind of. It sounds like a movie, but it's a overnight. He became an overnight sellout. It's kind of incredible.
It's so funny to say that because I saw that on your grandfather, and I was gonna say I have to fact check this with Nick Curry because this is insane what I'm reading, and I just want to make sure this is legitimate because this is so freaking cool. And you just did, and I'm like, whoa, because I saw the things on the riots, man, and that's insane.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's insane. So like, he was brought up toughest of the tough in a really bad era, you know, like in a really tough era. So by the time my father came around, he had a lot to like live up to. In that era was a tough ass era as well. Like the 60s, you know, you still had to fight your way in and out of the ring. You still got tested every time at the bar. It was still half up in the air when you went into the ring with certain people, you know, like a Johnny Valentine. You had to watch yourself 24/7 because you get your head ripped off, you know, and that's not a work, man. That's the truth. So for me, my brother got into it, but for me, I skipped a couple generations as far as like the less raw aspect of it. Because my father gave me the straight shot, you know, it was a straight shot of espresso with no sugar and no cream. And it was hard for me to get past certain little things. But like Darwin said, and like all the other great scientists said, man, when posed with a challenge or when posed with something, you evolve. So I've evolved, and I was able to like still keep that old school vibe and still keep that old school mentality and the old school, you know, creed, but also invite a lot of different things. And I think that's like the big thing as far as my style is. Like, I do a lot of things from the past. It's everything from the past, but I freak it in a way with the future. And I'm trying, honestly, it's all about just getting better, because it's easy, and it sounds corny, but it's true. It's easy to get caught up into the fact of, oh, this guy's here or that guy's here. He's only been doing it for this. Oh, it was because of his father. No, it wasn't because of his father. It's because he had money. It's easy to get caught up in that type of shit, but that's shit, dude. You got to get caught up in, and it's true. And it sounds like demeaning when some people say it, but it's like, hey, stay in your own lane. It's true, man. How can you reach where you want to get to if you're in someone else's lane and living in their view, because their view is different from yours? So that's always been somewhat of a little thing, because, you know, you get big expectations, you got, you know, snotty words coming from, you know, supposed, you know, family members or supporters or friends, and it's like certain things, they don't mean harmful, but then it still hurts nonetheless. It's like, oh, I thought you would have been here. Oh, I thought you would have been like this, or I thought this, or how, you know, things like that. It's just the little jabs that hurt. But, you know, you get past all those different things. It's all about getting better, man. And I'm all about getting better. And one thing that amateur wrestling taught me, and just life teaches you at the time, that, you know, you can't really lie to yourself, man. Or you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself, because the truth will come out one way or another. And one of my grandfather's biggest sayings was, if you're prepared, you have nothing to fear. Fear is natural. When you go into the wrestling mat, fear is natural. You got a guy who's going to try to hurt you. When you go into any situation, fear is natural. But if you prepare, and it's true, and you're honest, and your ethos is right, and your virtue's right, and all that shit's right into it, you don't have anything to fear, because you've maxed out your potential, and whatever thing that happens, it's okay, because you fought all the way. And that's, you know, anybody who fights all the way and fights valiant will always get a soldier salute or a warrior salute in whatever they do, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but the transition was different, and it was tough.
Yeah. Steve.
If you were to create your own championship, what would the name or theme of the title be?
All right, so I think about stuff like that all the time. And the latest one, which one was the latest one? I guess it wasn't really a title, but it was a name of a promotion. It would be Resurgence Pro Wrestling, and the theme of it would be, because like I think we've frayed away from a lot of the things of what wrestling is and what wrestling's about, and people are using it in certain ways that they've never done that before, contrary to popular belief. Because in the 30s and the 20s and the 50s and the 60s and 70s, you know, where my dad or my grandfather is, they never, you know, levied your dream over your head in return for like sexual favor or for return. They didn't do Mickey Mouse bullshit like that. So my theme behind it was like, hey, like that's what the thought was: resurgence, the way wrestling should be. Resurgence pro wrestling, the way wrestling should be. With high integrity, with high, like, the virtue and the talent out there, with like, accepting for everybody, because like wrestling is for everybody. And it's problem because everybody means everybody, and you got to get the good and the bad,
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be on a philosophical letter and stuff like that, but it's just too bad what's happened in the wrestling culture, and that's sad. But hey, we're off to a good start. But man, resurgence was one. Pro wrestling would be that. Another, like, if I was to do a name of a promotion, would be like Seaboard Wrestling Promotion, because like the Eastern Seaboard. But as far as the titles and stuff like that, man, I haven't really thought of one. But I've been thinking. I have been thinking, but I'm flirting in the in between area of kind of corny but not corny, but having an idea but not being able to back up the theme. And I would like to be able to back up the theme. So I'm not quite there yet. I don't have like the title yet, but I have some ideas in my mind.
Creativity, that's the way to go. That is the way to go. James, I'll let you start this next round.
Sure. Absolutely. Man, I feel like I can learn so much from you, man. It's really honestly cool that one thing that really stood out to me when I was learning about the past. Well, I got caught up kind of in the past. When I looked up your name, I found a bunch of stuff. And of course, like I said, I saw that your grandfather did work in Texas, and you mentioned some of the names that he worked with. I saw a couple of names there. Von Erichs, stuck out. You said that. Where was it in Texas that he worked particularly? Do you know? Go
ahead.
Do you have you ever been down here to look at some of those promotions that he worked with? I know some of them don't exist anymore, of course.
Yeah, not yet, but I am totally, and that's schemes as far as if I was to ever. You're giving me goosebumps, dude. Seriously, because I feel like a tiger in the brush, ready to pounce, dude.
That's good.
My goal is to go back, and I'll share another story a little bit down the line, but my goal is to go back and resurrect that feeling. That's why resurgence was a name, or like resurrection is kind of like a name, because I resurrect that feeling of like what they did in that, like that nostalgic feeling. And that's like a high on its own due to the adrenaline rush. You feel like you have a greater presence. You feel like 10,000 years of worthy ancestors are all looking at you at this one point. And that floats my boat, dude, because that's the kind of like, I'm into all that type of stuff. But man, like Texas, absolutely. Detroit, Ohio, absolutely. I remember I went one of the last jiu-jitsu tournaments I went to. For some reason, I went there with a friend of mine, and I wasn't going to go, but I went because I didn't want to like let him down. And then I kind of started getting into the mode and stuff like that. And it was in Long Island. It was in Naga, and it was just whatever. I was getting into the mode, and I was getting into this. He never did anything before, so he was going to go in there and get washed. But I was getting into my mode and like getting that tiger out of me. And I remember like flying up there like 90, 100 miles an hour. I was really doing my thing. And I was just, when I got there, it was the Long Island Garden. And I didn't know it anything, but Buddy Rogers, and my grandfather sold that building out in the 50s. And when I went in there, I went double weight class, double experience. I went to the advanced into the intermediate. And I ended up going like 7-1, 8-1. And I went in two weight classes, and I wrestled like 6 matches in a row and lost my last one when I was by a stud nonetheless. But then I find out that was one of the places that they performed at, and I felt like I came home with 7-8 scalps on my Warhawk. And I remember I wrestled Bobby Fulton for his retirement match, and we went to Chillicothe, Ohio. And my dad has made that trip from Hartford, Connecticut to Ohio maybe 100,000 times. And in the GPS, listening to everything he's saying to me, listening to all the reliving every little chapter, every little page since I was a kid. And I'm going up the old warpath, and I got the GPS on, but my dad doesn't even need it. He remembers where to go and what to do. And I'm like there, and I'm getting closer, and I'm getting closer. 10 hours straight, break a night, don't even matter. That doesn't matter to me. I'm on it. When I got to the hotel room, I went out and I walked. I remember hearing all the big stories about, like, the big bookies and the gangsters at Scioto Downs. They were taking loan sharking, and that's what they'd do after the matches sometimes, or he would do after the matches to make a little extra money. And I remember hearing about certain riots and certain big matches, and I remember seeing going past Dayton, Akron, West Virginia. And then I remember, and that whole thing just boiled up into me, and I'm like, oh, I'm wrestling Bobby Fulton in the Fairgrounds Coliseum in Chillicothe, Ohio. There's 2,000 people there. And a lot of those people came to see old Flying Fred and what his kid had and seeing how he could spread those wings. And then it just was like a total high. It's like, there's no other way to put it. It was a total high. It was a total, like, like song from the gods kind of type of deal. And it was like, that type of shit floats my boat. So, one way or another, and I always tell everybody, like, I would love to be in certain places. I'd love to go in certain places, but the time in the last couple of years for me, I had to solidify, like, my personal career, because that's what the big promise is. You got to promise to all your little relatives, like, oh, I'll do this first, I'll do that first, then I'll take the big jump. It's probably a better thing, because when you're young, it would suck to be given all these great opportunities, given all these things, and you wouldn't know what to do with it, and you wouldn't be able to appreciate it. And that's a natural byproduct of anything, because that's what fame does, that's what money does, is what power does. That's why not everybody can have those things. And that's why, me, and I'm not getting into further detail, but, kind of being a little bit more, getting into my spirituality, I try to, like, be a little bit more understanding, because I understand that is natural, so I try not to condemn someone or get so mad. It's all about, and that goes back to becoming a better person. But yeah, dude, going to Texas would be big to me. Going to Houston, going to the Sportatorium, going to Dallas. I mean, I was talking to Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan came up to me and says, I want to shake your hand, and I want to, look at Bull Curry's grandson, because that is the biggest draw in box office hit that ever hit Texas wrestling. Bigger than Brody, bigger than the Funks, bigger than Von Erich. And it's kind of true. I have old letters that, that were transpired to the wrestlers. It's like, oh, I'm here in these cow towns and this and that. I'm making only about $300 a week. I'm going to give it a couple more shots, and then we'll see how it goes. But he ended up taking that, like him, Danny McShane, Duke Kiyomoka, Louis Tourette, and then, like, other great wrestlers like El Medico. They had the mix of the luchadors and the wrestlers. And Texas is a badass fucking country, and it's a country of its own. You got a lot of badasses come from fucking Texas, brother. I'll tell you that. So you get all those fans, those drunken fans. You fight your way into the arena. You fight your way out. You fight at the bar. Someone's getting hurt. The body's not coming home. And that's what that culture was. That was the original. That was hardcore. Yeah. They went for it, and they got it. So that was kind of like, that's going to be my thing, man, going to Texas. Nice. Wrestling in San Antonio, wrestling in all those old towns, and reliving that vibe. And I know that given the opportunity, given the platform, given the opponent, given the challenge and the personal, given the bloodlust behind it, I'll arise to a different level, a different magnitude. One things I want to do is, if I was ever to wrestle. I always had a dream, if I was to wrestle at WrestleMania and I was ever to main event and headline, what I'd want to do is I'd want to have it in Ohio, and I'd want to have it at the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit, Michigan. And I'd want it against Brian Pillman Jr. The battle over who has the fly and who doesn't. Because that was my that was my dad's whole, and that was my grandfather's whole stronghold. That's my name, the Sheik, Bobo, all those guys. And it's like, there's no heat between us, and there's nothing like that. But it's like, Brian Pillman Sr. was like a huge fan of Flying Fred. And there was like, my dad always, kind of like the guy. He didn't know each other well, but he was from Cincinnati. My father was a big star in Cincinnati, inspired guys like, Abyss and all those other type of guys from that area. And then all those workers, Al Snow, like Mickey, like literally, so it's a great compliment. But then there's an avenue to make money, or it doesn't have to be Brian Pillman. It could be someone else, but I'd want it to be in the Astrodome in Houston, or I'd want it to be in, like the freaking Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit, Michigan. And I'd fucking die in that ring that day if I could ever get there. 'Cause that's the level I'd take it to, dude. Because that's the feeling. But like even certain things, like a lot of people in my old matches and like in my old wrestling matches, some of my best ones, you get the guys with the beats, you get the guys with the certain headphones, dude. What I would do is I would say like, Sumo Hall, Festival Hall, Kobo Hall, Madison Square Garden, the freaking Osaka Joe Hall in Japan, Festival Hall in Australia, Dayton O'Hare Arena, like the Cow Palace, the HIC building in Honolulu, and like I just have it in my head sold out, and like what my dad did, when my grandfather. I think about all the great legends of the past and everybody like that, and it gives me that fume to really go out there and go for it. So it's like my dream is to go to Japan to wrestle in those places that they wrestle, to go to like the Cow Palace and go to all these different buildings that are still around, like that's like my personal like conquest.
Yeah.
And then what's more so about it too is like the giving back, because I actually got a couple pictures here, and not to jump from subject to subject, but I think it's important because I think everybody should know about stuff like this. And it's like, it could be corny or people might think certain ways, but one of the stories and the testament of how hard my grandfather had it was back when he was young. His eldest brother was playing with a little ball, and it got put into an electrical circuit, and he ended up getting electrocuted and grounded, and it completely fried him. So he had to jump into that electrical panel, which was unprotected by the city, and rip him out. Thankfully it wasn't live at the time. The circuit already broke, and he carried him home, his dead little brother, like 1.5 miles, 2 miles, ran him home, and he gave it to his mother, his dead little brother, and tried to like revive him, do what he could. So in his life, he never, kayfabe was kayfabe, dude. Never did autographs, but people he would do autographs for was little children that had, polio or sicknesses. And, and he did a lot of charities for, like polio sicknesses and like orphans, because, he never forgot. And one of my things that I want to do, and Carnegie always said, a rich man who dies wealthy dies a disgrace. And that can go on different little aspects. It's like, if it's not dollars, then it could be knowledge and opportunity. So one of my things I would, want to do is like pay it forward and to try to grant opportunity and try to like help people along the way, dude, because that's the way it should be. And that's also continuing a legacy on my own, and continuous, not only the wrestling legacy, but that part of the legacy that a lot of people don't know about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different freak. But I have a couple, like I said, I'm going to pull them out right now. I have a couple pictures of him doing things for charities, and I'll show you as soon as I get them. Here they are. So I don't know if you can see him. Can you see this kind of clear or not quite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so he is right here. He's got a little kid on top of his head. This is a part of one of his charities. They're teaching all the orphans how to wrestle. This is another action shot. This is him on the floor, and they're doing like a little demonstration. This is another action shot of him overseeing everything and like kind of like watching it and just being that part. And that's in all good settings. A different setting is him going back to Ohio to a reform school for boys in 1943. I'm not Ohio, Connecticut, and staying true to his roots, because man, when you're poor and when you're in the inner city, people aren't bad, man. You have to resort to desperate measures when you don't have food, when you don't have money, and you don't have a means. So he never forgot his roots, and he always came back and he paid it forward. So that's one of my things that I want to do, and that's one thing that's big for me. I have another little poster, and it's one thing that he kept forever, which is pretty special. It's from 1969. It's a fan. It's a fan mail, and it's this right here.
Oh, that's cool, man.
And it's from a young kid, and didn't know no better. But I can read it out for you. It says, "Wild Bull, From an artist and a wrestling fan who thinks you're the best on the mat, Bill Dara, see back. And on the back, it has like some illustrations and a little passage. And what it says is, would like to know more about you more. He's a little kid, didn't know much. But I think we're the roughest and the best. When you get a chance, please give me a call. Hope you like the picture. Bill Dara, 3300 High Road House Place, Dayton, Ohio, 45429. Phone 299-8337. Hope you beat the Sheik and win the belt. Good luck. I'll be there tonight to see you crush him. And then it has it right there, February 14th, 1969, which I happen to have the old reels of that match. So
Wow.
I just got to get him transferred, dude, and I'm going to put on. And everybody's like, oh, you could sell that to a museum. You could sell that. Man, fuck you. I'm putting it for the wrestling proposal. Not putting it for the fans, Tim, to have that. Fuck your money, dude. It ain't all about money. You know, it's about a whole different thing, man. And it's about, like, people who care, and it's about people who, like, give a shit, you know? And it's for the fans, dude. And that's what it's for. So those are things that I have to say. But that's enough of me talking. Let's hear some of you guys talk, man. I want to hear all four of you guys. Maybe I have a couple questions for you, but yeah. So go ahead, Mikey. You go ahead. Lead the way.
Well, fuck. I forgot my question.
Want me to go?
Oh, Steve, go ahead.
What's it like being related to Steph Curry?
Oh my God.
It's crazy, bro, having the last name Curry or Steph Curry, because that was always the thing in school. They'd call me Curry Chicken, or they would always give me, I would have like curry packets under they'd always rib me. I was always getting ribbed. And it's like, when I was going to school, and some kids who knew who like dad and my grandfather were, but the teachers were the ones who knew. So the teachers would be asking me questions, and everybody would be like, what the hell is he talking about? Who the hell is this guy? You know, like blonde hair, Goldilocks, everything like that. But who the hell is this kid, you know? And I was bleach blonde back then, man, like bleach blonde. And then like when people found out, oh, he's, wrestler, so it was like, it kind of gave me a lot of things where it's like, all right, I'm cool and I'm popular now, but then it's like, oh, you always got those guys like, oh, I want to make a name for myself, so then obviously you get schoolyard fights. But then it just was always a thing like, oh, Curry, then people used to rib me. That was my first introduction to ribs, getting like little curry packets, getting little things. One of my friends drew in one of my yearbooks a whole bunch of seasonings with like an Asian lady, then like a Hindu lady, then like an Arab lady, and then it was me, and then like he put a lot of time and effort into it. One of my friends, Cottrell, he put a lot of time and effort. It was really funny. So it feels good, also surreal.
Yeah, I got my question. So, what are some indie promotions you want to wrestle at that you haven't already?
I did a little spot show for Limitless, but I mean, I would love to go and get in tune with Limitless. I mean, I would love to get in tune pretty much with everywhere, but I'll name some stuff off. I mean, Limitless Wrestling is great. They do great. They have, Maine is beautiful, so I would love to travel there. And
Hey, I live in Maine. Born and raised.
When I go out to Maine, dude, I'll make sure I check. Anywhere I go, if you guys are in the area, dude, give me a heads up. We'll take a fucking picture and we'll do whatever. We'll like go to the bar or some shit. Seriously, I'm not just
underage.
Fuck
dude,
yeah.
Remember that.
Fake IDs.
Dude.
Yeah,
So,
I'm born and raised in Maine, so yeah.
so Limitless is a place. Beyond Wrestling is a place. Game Changer Wrestling, like obviously like certain places are kind of like debunked now or like not around, but like I wanted to go to CZW and like I want to go to like WrestlePro, and it's hard to get in those type of places because you really got to prove yourself. But I, like now that I got my license, I got my degree, and I'm ready to take the next step as far as like life goes. Now I'm putting my hands and feet down, 10 toes down, 10 fingers down, and I'm gonna really try to get into the wrestling realm a little bit better. So like literally, there's a few places out in Ohio that I would love to get in tune with. There's a few places out in Midwest, California, Defy. I just think that what I'm going to need to do is prove, because one of the biggest things is I didn't go to like an actual full school. I got trained by my father, which we had a school, but it's called Kevin Landry's. It was a guy named like Kevin Landry, and it was like somewhat slightly disorganized. The school itself was more so like an open gym, which was great. But it's a real Sylvester Stallone vibe. It's from the mud type of vibe. It's hard. It's hard knock shit, So that's what was kind of like. I like that. I love that because it's everything you need. But the only thing it's not all the resources you need and all the little perks. You got to get it from the iron. You got to like really do it. So it's doing that is kind of like makes things a little bit harder because it's like your own school. You don't have something that can get you in tune with a few different promotions. Regardless, like my dad can get me into a few places here and get me into a few places there, and like the name will get me into different horizons as I get older. But to break out, obviously, you have some like jealousy in there, and you can mix that with like the early stages and mistakes of any wrestler that can give a bad taste in someone's mouth or a good taste in someone's mouth. So there's like a lot of different assets, but I have a lot of different hopes, and those are some of the places I'd really love to go to. Limitless, Beyond, Game Changer Wrestling, like shit. There's like 5 great wrestling promotions out in like Texas, but Booker T is a Texas boy. He's a Bull Curry fan, so I would love to go to Reality of Wrestling. I'm actually going to reach out to a lot of different places, man, and just try to like get some polish, learn everything I can, and try to complement the legends of the past even better, and get even better at my craft, and move more towards the bigger picture and like the bigger audience, which I think that a lot of people get misconstrued from. And like coming from someone like me, it pretty be easier to have like the precursor that, oh, I just want like the glitz and the glam and the fashion and the ego, when it's kind of somewhat different. I want something a little bit different. Obviously all that comes with all that stuff, but like mine is just slightly a little bit different. And I'm sure everybody somewhat says that, but I don't know, deep down I feel like I can actually like pull through with my word and not get wrapped up too lost in the sauce, as they say.
Yeah. Creative Pro. That's a good one. I'd recommend. Yeah, that's on the island over there.
I've got a question for you, Nick. Who, past or present, deceased or living, who is your biggest dream opponent?
All right, I would love to have a match with Pillman Jr. I would love to have him.
He's just as good as his dad. He's amazing.
Great. He's gonna be the next big thing. But Pillman would be one. MJF would be another. We're all around the same age, and MJF is fucking great. So MJF is one. I would love to wrestle Kazuchika Okada, Kenny Omega. Yeah. My dad broke Dusty into the business outside into the Midwest. I actually have original posters and programs of him as Dusty Runnels before he became into the Texas Outlaws of Dick Murdoch and Dusty Rhodes. And even then, I've met Dusty before. And that was another reason that kind of got me into the really thinking I could do it because, I'm just looking at him. I saw him at WrestleMania, then I see him there. And he says, "Come over here, baby, and sit on Daddy's lap." So I'm like, I'm sitting on his lap, and he's talking to me, and then he's like, "Give me kind of like the gimmick, baby." But then he like kind of like cuts his voice a little bit and gets like serious, where he still has that talk, a little bit of a lisp, but he's like looking me dead in my eyes. He says, "Yeah, you just remember that your daddy and your grandfather was among the greatest of the greatest when wrestling was at its greatest." He says, "I've been everywhere and every place." He said, "And I can tell you that, Daddy. So when you become of age, you come give me a check, and we'll get you where you need to be." Obviously, when I came to age, Dusty was no longer around, which is also, and it's not necessarily I'm looking for a favor and stuff like that, but he was kind of like one of the guys that in the future I would have loved to have seen. And like, it just so happens that, life doesn't, grant me those opportunities. I can never get to see the Bull Curry, the Sheik, the Fritz, my legends, my idols, but I get to know them in a certain essence, and I still have that connection, if it sounds like weird or not. But past, present, and future, man, the Sheik would be one. I mean, Leaping Larry King would be one because he's a legend. Lou Thez would be one. But Jack Briscoe would totally be up there, dude. I mean, totally up there. But as far as for like guys now, like I said, Pillman, MJF, I mean AJ Styles, pretty much everybody is great. I can like say that like NXT probably has like, among the best wrestling per se in the world, like as far as like what they do and the stuff they do, and like as far as like how great it really is, as far as like connoisseur, NXT is great. So everybody there is great, and then what they do with their talent is just like second to none, and how they elevate them. But also if you look at AEW, they all got like really, really good, man. They've gotten really, really consistent with all their stuff. And you can see like Janela's getting better. Not saying they weren't, but like you just see what that TV does to you, that polish does to you. So I mean, yeah, dude, in my mind, Pillman, like Caleb Conley was kind of cool to wrestle because he was NWA guy, and I felt like I wrestled him for Anthony Green's promotion, 01 USA. So I mean, I wrestled Ace Austin, which was a great match. Everybody, Ace Austin's amazing, but I was able to perform right there with him and like kind of like prove that I wasn't, prove that I had some potential, and it was good to have that match with him. So
Yeah.
on and on, but those are just a few.
Antwan.
That's a damn good list.
Yeah.
All right. My question is going to be, looking at the culture of wrestling today, what's one noticeable difference you see with wrestling today versus how it was back in the day?
Okay, so a lot of people can't handle the truth. All right. So I don't want to offend anybody. So I'll answer it, but I'll probably not be able to give the truth.
Hey, we're unfiltered here, so hit us with it.
Well, make no mistake, wrestling is for everybody, and it's escape, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not for someone to come off, like, listen, everybody has the right to be happy. Everybody has the right to love. Everybody has the right to do a lot of things and to manifest themselves in any different way. And I'm for that. And I think that's like what America's all about, period, is that you have the sight, you have the vision, you can do it. But I think that definitely one of the biggest differences from now to then is that not anybody can come in. It was kind of a closed door, which is also a bad thing at times. But not anybody can come in. It had to be like the filtration system was so vast and it was so hard to get in that if you look in the past and you look at the old timers and you could look up some of these matches and it's like, okay, you got shit, dude. You got like not just great wrestler, great wrestler, great wrestler, great wrestler, great wrestler. You got like icon, top draw, champion in New York City, champion in St. Louis, champion in Tokyo, and they're all on the big card. And these are like super shows, super culture shows. Those are big differences. Another big difference, it's like, after the territories folded and Vince had such a stronghold on everything, he was able to monopolize a lot of things. So that's also a bad thing. No competition is always like a somewhat of a monopoly is always somewhat of a bad thing. But like one of the biggest differences, it's like obviously it was a closed circuit. Not everybody can get into it. I mean, the wrestlers themselves back then had a little bit more of a code and like somewhat of a respect and like for like kayfabe and their actual like personas. And I'm not saying they don't now, but it's totally not it's totally not the same. Like, if you go into a bar and then you go up to like a Bull Curry or a George Steele or a John Pesic, and then you cross one of them and you try one of them, you're gonna get your head ripped off. But you got some guys on TV who get slapped in the face and they don't do shit. Total difference. Yeah. I mean, some guys, you could hear them talk from the past and you could hear the pain, you could hear the anguish, you could hear the real behind it. Some guys now they talk and they have, children's voice, which is not a problem, but I'm just saying there's massive differences, and it's, but wrestling is also great now. I mean, and to give a straight answer for that, you can't because, there's rules and exceptions to everything, but I would contradict myself a lot because also with the doors opening up for wrestling, you get a lot of good transfers. You get a lot from different athletes. You have the indie scene, which is, had always had negativities and always had like bad connotations, but the indie scene now is great and we're thriving. And then now we just expose all these schmucks and they're going to get their dumb asses out. So now this is going to open up a lot of good things for, what real indie wrestling should be and what real indie wrestling, can be. So there's a lot of great things as far as like what has changed, but there also is those negativities. And I think, you know what, that's probably the yin and yang of life, you know. And whether you like it or not, the things are the way they are now, and it's the way it goes. You just got to accept it. But I think wrestling has some differences, but it also has some greats as well too. Because regardless of what people would say, yeah, there was a lot of guys that made a shit pot full of money back in the day, but there was also a lot of guys who did not make enough money, who weren't able to get the health care, that weren't able to pay for their pills and ended up dying. You know what I mean? You can't get away with a lot of the shit like that now because, you know, like everything's so mainstream. You got these paper trails. You got, you know, like people can have a voice. If you went against the office in the back, you get your head blown off. You know, like I got a little thing for you right here. This was a snippet. And if you could see, it's a boxing ring and it's a guy with eyebrows, you know, kind of like colored in. And it's a snippet from the Detroit Press after my grandfather fought Jack Dempsey in 1940. And what it says is, when Goofy Bull Curry fought Jack Dempsey and old Jack took a dive, MCK. And then the story behind that was my grandfather was the Badman champion of the Arena Gardens, which was the mecca of one of the meccas of wrestling. There was Paul Bowser. There was a lot of different promotions. You know, they had Boston, they had St. Louis, they had Detroit, and Detroit was a mecca. And they had that Badman champion, which pretty much was the precursor to hardcore. So what they did was they had it at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, and Jack Dempsey was going around and fighting guys at the time. So the last fight prior to him fighting my grandfather, which was a big build-up, you know, was the world's toughest mat man versus the world's greatest boxer. It was the precursor to MMA. In any case, Cowboy Luttrell fights Jack Dempsey in Atlanta, and it's supposed to be a work, but he gets fucking mauled. He gets split. His head gets split open from his eyebrow to his, you know, his nose. Like, you know, completely brutalized him. So my grandfather came from a war-torn country, you know, from war-torn society, war-torn country, a torn household, torn upbringing. So a guy like that, you know, like when you have a professional agreement, if you don't go along with that professional agreement, whatever happens, happens. And the mentality of those wrestlers back in those days is totally different than the mentality now, you know, because you had to protect your stock. So leading up to the match, they said, you know, hey, Bull, you're going to wrestle Dempsey, you know, you're going to put him over, you're going to do your thing every XYZ. But you know what I mean? He asks him, they said, you know, he doesn't have the juice in his legs anymore. He's 47 years old. This is a dream match. You're lucky to even ever have this match. You know how promoters are and bosses are. You ever have an asshole boss say, you're lucky you even with me? You know? You got all these guys like that. I got a boss like that now. Big sweaty guy. You should be happy you with me. You know, you hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
So he said, all right, take care of him, you know, and then I'll take the dive. How much am I going to get paid? He said, you fucking bum motherfucker. He says, he'll go in there, he'll split your head up, he'll fucking kill you in 2 seconds. You're just a worker. He says, you went through this, you went through that. He says, you know, this and that, XYZ. Well, then he's going to have to fucking do it then. And then that said, they walk out. That was Max Waxman, and it was a couple other of the handlers and the promoter. So they go out there, and I guess the story goes, and it's in the paper. You can find it on Google, and I have it. I should have it accessible, but I'm going through all my stuff. I can't find the scrapbooks from the 30s. This is going to drive me insane. So I put a lot of time into this stuff. But in any case, the story that my grandfather told my father, which told me that they went in there, and he's giving them pot. You know, they're fighting a little bit. They're doing a little bit of the dance. Dempsey's swinging for the fence. He's trying to knock his head off because, you know, that's what he is. He's a boxer. And he's popping him in the chest, and they're doing little. So I guess he hits him with a right hand and splits his ear. So Jack Dempsey's a world champion. That's Manasseh Mauler. He's the baddest man on the planet, you know. So they're getting into a tussle and this and that. Grandfather's, you know, like in the carnivals, it was anything goes. Wrestling, boxing, everything. It was a fight. It was an MMA fight, pretty much. So there's actually a picture on Google you could look. There at one point in the first round, he picks him up, and they say jackknife him, but he picks him up and double legs him out of the ring. You know, when they go for the fences. In the second round, They're slugging each other. They're going this and that. And on Jack Dempsey's Accord, and I'll tag you in the post. I'll make an Instagram post on it because I have the writing. So anybody who thinks they want to fact check me, I got all my shit ready. So just be ready. So it says in the article, he says, yeah, my last match, I was fighting a tough cop from Hartford, Connecticut by the name of Bull Curry. And in the second round, I miscalculated a punch and he ended up landing a left hook. And the next thing I knew, I was in the third row of the stands. Knocked out. Not knocked out, but he got knocked out of the ring, which is so the story goes from our side and from what I know is that when he got knocked out of the ring, everything flew up in the air, the flags threw up, this and that, and there was a no contest disqualification. So they came up to him and they said, the promoter says, you son of a bitch. He says, you're never going to leave Detroit alive. And that's what they say because you didn't go along with and in Detroit's always been a gangster culture, and they always had a hand in a lot of things. Primo Carnera is the Cinderella man. He is the guy who got used by the mob and this and that, and that's all. And he got used by the mob in wrestling as well. So there was always even in Japan they had the Yakuza that ran the book, so there was always that underworld feel. So what ended up happening was at the hotel he stayed, he's reading his coffee the next day or a couple days ago. After, and then two gunmen come in with Tommy guns, a hitman from the Purple Gang, and they spray up someone, give them I think they had a 50-round drums. They let them all have it. Sprayed up the guy about 10 feet away from him, 5 feet away from him, right next to him, as somewhat of a scare tactic. It was a mafia hit, but everybody had it was a scare tactic to show, hey, don't fuck around. But that's the type of shit you dealt with back then. But that was kind of one of those things that I wanted to show you and then tell you, and that kind of a testament to how different things were back then. I mean, you look at Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody got stabbed, and that had to do with the Office. You look at Big Bad John out in California. He was going to start a lawsuit against the LA office. And I don't mean to spill tea and stuff like that because these are all secrets that I shouldn't be saying. And it's not my place to say shit, but there was guys who get your throat cut if you didn't fucking go with the plan.
Yeah.
So it's a total different culture, total different. There's a lot of differences, but that's also the changes for the better. So there's that point. That's another little point.
Yeah, personally, I would compare wrestling a lot to music. With music, there's multiple different genres and subgenres and multiple different kinds of styles of music. And just like with wrestling, there's so many different kinds of wrestling, and just culturally, there's so many differences depending on where you're from. With British wrestling, with Mexican wrestling, with Japanese wrestling, there's so many different kinds. So that's what I would compare wrestling to, is music. And much like music, wrestling is constantly changing, and there's so many different kinds of it. And, at the same time, though, you're still able to keep up a little bit because while wrestling is changing constantly, there's still some, amounts of the old school shit that will never go away, much like with music as well.
Absolutely. Hey, just a random little thing, too. I already showed some of the guys but these are all little instruments of Carnage that are original Bull Curry instruments. This right here is what he used as a policeman. He would wrap it around the hand, and then you'd twist it up a few times, and it kind of is almost like a makeshift handcuff. Another way you could do is you could wrap it around your fingers, and you could cold cock someone with makeshift brass nuts.
Wait, can I buy one?
Original, and this pair came out of his wrestling boots from the 1930s. These are his, one of his original pairs of brass knucks that I hold deep to my heart. I haven't hit anybody with them yet, so that's one thing. But no, I'm just kidding. This is another pair that are all black. They actually have original tape on it around this side. It's probably hard to see. Maybe I'll get out of the way. Maybe you can tell a little bit. Totally different. And these are actually not only just a relic of wrestling and a relic of him, but these are a relic of American history, as these are the original brass knucks. This is leather and steel in between a steel plate. And this is where his original, and they have blood. I don't know if you guys can see it. I hope anybody might. I'll actually try to get it as good as I can to where you could see, but blood stain on it. So this shit is all the, there's programs and articles in it. There's no bull about the bull. It's real life. You know, you got those certain rappers that live their rap life. You got those certain wrestlers that live their wrestler's life. My
Yeah.
grandfather lived it to the full. There was no work. It was you get your head split open from all the way down to your shoestrings. So that's just, you know, like kind of like it's good to be a part of that. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that as well. So anyways, keep going. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's time to ask the question. Does everyone know what I'm about to ask?
I think I have a strong feeling of what you're about to ask.
Well, Mr. Curry, there's a lot of good wrestling moves, and there's also a lot of bad wrestling moves, and we like to focus on the bad here too. So we would like to ask you your opinion on the overdrive.
The what?
The overdrive?
Is that the thing where he puts his hand up when he puts his knee over the neck and he kind of like goes
He's
forward?
playmaker.
Yeah.
All right, so it kind of goes to the thing that certain people can do certain things. Like, you know, like you ever see that guy that has on his Cartier glasses, his $2,000 glasses, has the Mercedes, the Rolex, and like probably is a rich, filthy rich. That doesn't matter because he looks like shit. That's similar to certain wrestling moves. Certain people can do things, certain people can't. Certain guys can do things, certain guys can't. So that's one of those things that, you know, like I do try to do certain things that I saw that are cool. And I look at it once, try it once, and then I just know, Nick, absolutely not. I wish I would love to, but you can't. And like that is one of those moves that some guys can like pull off, but some guys cannot pull off. And it makes it look kind of like bad. I think that's why a lot of guys say, hey, don't use my move, you asshole, because it's kind of going to discredit it somewhat somehow. Because, you know, if it doesn't look smooth, it's going to like, you get a negative condemnation on it. You know what I mean? And if it gets over, you want to be the guy that gets over, not something else.
I mean, personally, the way I look at it, I mean, I'm not a wrestler like you, but for me, if I like invented some kind of wrestling move and then someone else did it, I'd be honored about that. I'd be like, hey, well, I did something and someone else thought it was cool, and I'm not gonna, you know, personally, I would feel like honored if that kind of thing happened. Actually, Shawn Michaels, I think a couple years ago, someone asked him, you know, what are your thoughts on everybody doing the super kick? Because you were kind of the first guy to do it. And Shawn didn't have an issue. He's like, oh, it fucking brings a smile on my face seeing all these new young guys hitting the super kick all the time. I love it. So, like, I feel the same way that Shawn does about the super kick. If I was a wrestler, again, I'm not. I mean, I'm scrawny as shit, but nonetheless, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and that is like that's one thing as far as like the Pillman thing goes. You know, like a lot of people would be pissed off if you use the name Flying, Flying Fred Curry, and then you got Flying Pillman. But my dad never looked at it like that. That's a great honor. That's a great compliment. Some people will get a little like like one thing that it never really irked me, but a lot of times like I would do moves, which I never jocked off anybody from the day to like this day and age, but then it'd be like, oh, shades of Kazuchika Okada because I did the drop for the guy on the corner. Dude, my dad did that in '66. I got pictures of it. You can't tell, yeah, I'm not, then another guy, like there's a couple guys like, oh, don't do the drop kicks in a row. I did that on like, WWE or this and that. It's like, bro, like you can't try to tag mark. You can't try to like, anybody can do anything, period. But you can't try to like stamp something that like has already been like stamped. You know what I mean? And it's like
exactly.
And it's not a problem, and it's not that big of a deal. But that kind of like goes for, I'll say, one of the issues of like wrestling history. I feel like we need to put a little bit more emphasis on our history, because if you look at boxing, dude, or if you look at these other boxers and stuff, and the problem is, the truth is, there's truth in the saying, never meet your heroes. All right. But that also goes back to, you have the highs and lows in life. Ric Flair said in a promo, he says, if you're a man, you don't cry about it. If you're a real man, or if you're a man, you don't cry about it. You take the lives and the ups and downs. If you're a real man, you never go down, you stay up. Now, that doesn't mean about money, glitz, glam, and fashion. That means in your heart, if you're a real man, you never go down, you just stay up. So if you got $10 million in the bank or $5 million in the bank, you're still that pride. You still got that. That's what that means in my heart. But what was the original question? I kind of got side.
Yeah, the overdrive.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of like goes back to the things like certain guys can do things and certain guys, can't. And the only thing, like, I think it's like a compliment on when guys do your moves and like when guys don't do it. But I can understand like the negatives on certain things as well because, that's the byproduct of professional wrestling and show business. Everybody's somewhat in a competition and everybody wants to get over. So there's the yin and the yang. There's the yin and the yang in my mind.
Yeah. Steve?
So I'm gonna change gears a little bit. What type of music are you into, and who are your favorite artists?
All right, dude. So I'm into every music. I don't care what kind of music it is, as long as it's good. Everybody says it, but it's not. All right. So I'm from Connecticut. I'm from the Hartford area. So rap is like that's where it's at, dude. And also there's like a big like island population around here. So reggae is where it's at too. You know what I mean? And then like me, you go to the parties and like you go into the diverse area, you get like the reggae girls, they start dancing with the way they dance. Or that you go to the Puerto Rican parties and you get those girls that know how to really convey you, or like you go to different. So it's like I was able to. I love Spanish music sometimes.
Yeah.
I got like dude Movado, Alandan, Vibes Cartel, like Ja Vinci. Those are like my reggae guys, like Don Omar, like who the hell else? Wisin and Yandel when I was a kid, like as far as like reggaeton guys go. Shit, who else? You got Bad Bunny, and then you got like Manuel. Love Ozuna, bro. Ozuna's my boy.
Yep.
That's my boy. Ozuna, if you're listening. No, I'm just kidding. So I love Ozuna. He's like really cool. Like he like kind of like sings, and it's kind of dope with the way he vibes it. But I also, I love rap. I love rap because that's kind of like what's been pushed more so in like somewhat of my area. But I also love rock. Everybody loves it. Like I got, dude, I grew up on Vice City. I was playing Vice City when I was a little kid. I know I shouldn't tell anybody that, but dude, Grand Theft Auto. We have to thank Grand Theft Auto for all of us knowing good music.
Yeah.
I've been saying this exact same thing for a long time.
Is like we owe them fucking a lot. So I was able to get put on to, like the outfield, all those a lot of my cheesy ass, corny ass songs, my entrance songs come from that because I always get it from like my brother, a couple other people. They're like, dude, drop that fucking song. But it's like, all right, I'm still finding myself, man. And that's a testament of still learning, getting better. Like, oh, you're Bull Curry's grandkid. You're Flying Fred's grandkid. Yo, you're already Nash with Pat, like naturally good at this. Bitch, I still got to learn, man. Like understand, everybody's got to learn. Nobody's perfect. So that's one of my things, and that's always been something cool that I kind of like. I love music. I love all music. Like, I mean, even songs in different languages, dude. I even know a couple good French songs. I know a couple good Arabic songs. Like, I love, like, music is cool, bro. Music and food is the historical way of meeting and transcribing and getting to know each other and becoming one as a society. Food itself is a history lesson. Spaghetti and meatballs, China and freaking Italy. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I love all kinds of music, man. All kinds.
Evan.
Oh boy.
Dude, don't be afraid to ask me any type of questions either. You guys can drain them.
Next round of questions, that's gonna be the fun one. So you can
I got
one more serious one for you and you, James, and you, Antwan, and then we'll get into the fun ones.
Well, fuck it. All right. What is one wrestling match that you can just watch a million times over and over again and never get sick of? Like just one match that you've known about for a long time, and it's just a match that means a lot to you. You just love it so much that you could just constantly replay it and just always enjoy it every time.
Where it's like, God damn it! Like you hear someone say like, I'd be able to answer that like that, and then when you're on the point, it's like, yeah. But all right, no bias behind it. One thing that always gets me right is when I watch the Bull Curry versus Johnny Valentine, 1968, because all I gotta hear is Bob Stevenson say, "This event is scheduled 2 out of 3 falls with no time limit," and then I'm up. I got the goosebumps already, and I'm ready to go. I'll walk down any street in any part with my gold out, diamonds blinging, does not matter. Any situation. So that kind of like always gets me hyped. Another one is the Sheik versus Mark Lewin. because it's a great match. You know, my dad says, "Oh boy," because he knows he's like, "Oh, those two fat fucks." You know, they're over the hill, down the valley at that point. Like this is not that's a terrible match, but like I love it because even though they're a little bit older, even though it's like them not at their peak, they still get that place to pop. You know, you still get that pop. I mean, I watched the Von Erich boys versus the Freebirds at the Dallas Dome or whatever it was, and watching Fritz get him in the freaking Iron Claw, then he jumps off and he gets him in the second one. Jumped out of the seat, dude. Jumped out of the seat when I watched that in my basement. Jumped out of the seat. I mean, The Rock versus freaking Hulk Hogan was another one that has always been synonymous. I could watch that 100,000 times.
Yeah.
I mean, another one that I could watch is, I forget which one it is, but it's Okada versus Omega. I mean, they have some pretty good fucking matches, dude, that like are always great. Briscoe and Funk. Dude, anything Briscoe I could watch. I got like a shit ton, but like, damn, dude.
Come on, Evan.
There's dude, like there's like, man, there's a lot, man. There's like a treasure trove. Ones that I could always watch are those ones that I listed. And I'm probably missing a bunch, and I'll be pissed off listening to this after the fact because it would all click for me, you know. So, but so many that I can't even list.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. Me personally, one match that, if you've never seen it, I want to recommend it to you. One match that I could watch a million times is Backlash 2005, Shelton Benjamin versus Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title. The finish of that match is one of the smoothest things I've ever seen in my life in wrestling. And if you've never seen it, I highly recommend that you go and check it out.
Okay, yeah, all right. So
yeah. Jericho is in like my top 5 of all time, and Shelton Benjamin is criminally underappreciated. Shelton is amazing.
Another thing too, I got my little pad right here too, dude. Like any type of places that you think that I should get at, dude. At the end of the thing, I'll write them down, or any type of like matches. Like so, you said Backlash 2005, Benjamin and Jericho.
Yes, for the IC title. I think it's the first match on that show, and it's just the finish of the match is really awesome. It's so smooth. They like reverse each other like 7 fucking times, and it's so cool. It's really, really cool.
That shit's great, man. That shit will never get old. I'm a big Flair mark too, dude. Don't ever forget that. And let me just tell you, but I love Flair, bro. Love Flair. Like I get hyped to listen to that guy talk. But go ahead, yeah. So all right, so that's one. Anybody else got any of their favorite?
Creative Pro. Creative Pro for you to try to get booked at Creative Pro Wrestling. Yeah, cool. Pro. I got you for that. Anyone else? Steve's gonna put him on 6ix9ine.
Oh God.
Dude, if you listen to 6ix9ine, are you from New York?
Yep.
You listen to Max B, dude, or French Montana at least?
No. Unless, like, I only listen to the songs if they have, like, another rapper in there that's featured in it.
So you're like a 6ix9ine lover? I mean, he's all right, dude. But,
Bro, I would do anything to fucking meet 6ix9ine again, man. The first time I met him, I cried. I jumped into his arms. Then he pulled me off, and I fell to the ground.
Well, if you look at, like, the culture of, like, rap and, like, that, the shit, it's like he completely fucked the fans and like fucked the culture. So it's like kind of like saying like it's 1945 and you're the wrestler and you go to the newsstand and then you put all the fucking finishes before the match, the show starts. Like that's kind of like, but like, hey, talent is talent and people are gonna like it regardless.
Yeah, I don't really like 90s music, 90s rap.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
I don't think today's rap is better than yesterday's rap.
No, Steve. Okay, James. Ask a question. We had to cut him off right there.
6ix9ine, the greatest rapper to ever breathe air.
Please ask a question, James.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily a question, Nick, but I mean, just I want to express my appreciation for the insight you gave me today, and everything that you shared with us. Yeah, there is a promotion here in Corpus Christi, Texas. It's Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance. Cody actually did some work for us down here. I think you'd be interested. Keith Lee did some work down here. I mean, a lot of big names I don't know if you're familiar with Andy Dalton. He's another third generation wrestler.
I got in tune with him on Instagram or Facebook. I forget which it was. And I told him that I was going to send him some stuff that I had on his dad because the Daltons, they were always around, all of them. And then like that was Donnie Fargo, and Donnie Fargo is like, that's a bad motherfucker right there, dude. That's another guy like wearing the the biker flags and like like dude got crazy inside stories about those guys are about it too. They really turn you out if there's something that happens. So it's like, yeah, bro, I got like. I would love to work, that type of a kid, or I'd love to like get in tune with that and relive that because like I have articles of his dad, I have articles of all that shit. I'm gonna still send him it too if he's listening to that, and if you guys know him, I'm still gonna send him that. I'm just trying to find everything. You know how the quarantine's got everybody kicked out of whack. It's either you have all the time in the world, you don't know what to do with it, or you don't have any time in the world and you want to like jump off a bridge. So I'm kind of like I'm the roller coaster going like this.
Yeah, I hear you.
Going straight. So Gulf Coast is wrestling out in Texas?
Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance? That's here in Corpus Christi. And, I want to make a kind of point out what you said earlier and, really empowered me and made me feel a lot better about current events and just like the past. I did some work with Gulf Coast Wrestling before I sustained an injury that I needed a surgery for. And I had a seminar with Dalton. And he was so freaking cool, man, so raw and real. And, I learned a lot from him that day. And one of the things that you said, that really stuck with me today was, being prepared for things like kind of the inevitable, having some self-doubt, when things aren't really looking and connecting the way that you want them to. And, me, I'm 27 and I recently went through some stuff that is exactly the same that what you described. I wasn't able to kind of connect things until after the fact. And I think that's a good thing to point out to people who watch. I just want to thank you for pointing that out that, this sport allows us to connect with others during a time where right now it's very difficult to do so.
Yeah.
And, in the recent time, like that I've been a part of the podcast, I've been able to do so with some really interesting people. Really, I've never met a bad like you said earlier. There's bad and good everywhere you go.
Yeah.
But down to honestly, when it comes to wrestling, I don't think I've ever met a bad person. Yeah, there's assholes everywhere, but I don't think I've met a bad person. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the motivation because a lot of time now. We're just going stir crazy at home. And a lot of the time, it's hard to just get up and stay motivated. So, as a coach, I just want to express my gratitude, man, and just, show my for you saying all that.
Well, dude, it works both ways, man, because like I said, dude, it's like it's not easy to be like a third gen, or it's not easy to have those eyes because you get put to a different spectrum. You get put to a different standard. Those little 4 hours of sleep before your match go to 2 hours of sleep. That numbness in your stomach goes to a numbness in your liver and your heart. That that tightness in your breath goes to tightness to your chest. It amplifies everything. So fear and like rejection has been like plagued me, dude. I mean, I keep a poker face, and it's not good to do that, but that's the old way, and that's the only way I know. And it's tough, dude. It's hard on the fucking brain, bro. That's what men's mental health is one thing, but you guys, my whole life, I'm always like, I gotta be like the Bull Curry. I gotta be like the Flying Foot. I gotta be like that. My dad's a tough, was like a tough guy, good looking guy nonetheless, but he was always a tough guy. You know what I mean? So it's like when I get scared, I thought I was less a man, or when I get nervous, I thought I was less a man. I thought I was like a coward. But then, as I got older and I grew, like I noticed that that's all natural byproducts. And what the bigger picture is that it's just number one, the experience. Like with shit like wrestling, and with there's a saying that my grandfather said: you could be doing it for 30 years, you could do it for 3 months. A lot of guys, some of them don't know shit no matter what, and that goes for everything. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like, when you get the experience, when you go out in the ring a little bit more, you're starting to iron yourself out. You get a little bit better. You get, you know what I mean? You get those reps. So that's one thing for it too. But like that you'll ease your mind. But you always must remember that like those emotions are all byproducts. And those are all natural. It's all okay. Don't listen to any freaking guy that goes, oh, I was never this, I was never that, because it's bullshit. Because everybody's like that. They just deal with it a certain way. You got to learn how to deal with it, and that takes time, dude. It took me years to get like, where I wanted to, like kind of like, and mentally now I'm finally there. I'm getting there. I got the path now, but it's like it took me years, to like tell the truth. It took me years to be real with myself. It took me years to like actually kind of like get it. And then it's the truth, man. When they say you're not cheating yourself, you're only cheating yourself. And I used to think, talent. When you have talent, sometimes talent doesn't work hard, and sometimes that may be true. Sometimes it's not. It's just even if you don't have talent, if you get a little bit of the glitz, you get a little bit of the ego, and the ego will drive you not to. So that's why it's good to stay humble, because you got to realize, where you came from, what can happen. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like all things you gain from it. And like, that's something that everybody has to, remember. And it's all about getting better, and you just have to reflect on yourself. You could use certain people as little, like avenues for measurement, because, you can't just look in the mirror all the time. You got to look at like everybody else. But there's a fine line, and you got to like kind of like definitely be careful with that. But as far as this goes, saying like, you thank me, nah, man, I thank you guys. I thank you. I thank all four of you guys, because it really means a lot more than a lot other. Like, I take to heart what a lot of people take for games. So that's why I tend to get a little more serious about things at a certain time. And I don't mean to do that at those times, but it's like, I'm very genuine with my words, and like I'd never say a lie to anybody, especially when it came to wrestling. And I'll say, dude, like, you guys have earned a fan and a friend for life and an ally, no matter on whatever spectrum, wherever it all goes. Because like, it's like what you guys have done for me is not what like the people in my area have done for me. It's not the people in my school have done for me. It's not the people that even my best friends have done for me. It's not the things that a lot of people have done for me. What you guys have done goes above and beyond that. So that gives me a certain like, dude, like, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I want to support you guys any way I can. I want to help you guys any way I can. It's just now I just have to get a little bit more serious in wrestling, get a little bit more up to date on my Facebook, my Twitter. I just started all that stuff, my Instagram, get a little bit more active so I can take myself to the next level to hopefully elevate my peers and my friends and pay it forward. And then one of my biggest goals is after I get out of wrestling, I want to be like a historian or head of archives, or like, something to that essence, so I could teach and I can like keep things like, preserved, and make sure every one of those guys who earned their dues gets their fucking hand raised at the end of the day. Because it's a true tragedy when you got like guys like Killer Tim Brooks and guys like, Larry Shane, you got guys like Bull Curry, or you got other guys like Louis Tillett and other big top draws personified wrestling and what made wrestling today. They don't get their hand raised as much as they should. You know what I mean? And a lot of that is due to shitty politics. But it's like, that's all. So I'm just saying, hey, I appreciate your thanks, and like, but just know it's like, dude, it's your honor, but it's my bigger honor, because you guys gave me this platform to talk. And I hope that like, this reached everybody well, and I hope that I didn't have my answers a little bit too open-ended, and then I hope that I get to see you guys, like, obviously down the line and like in person, and hopefully we all grow, and 10 years from now we could have this again, and then it'll be in front of a much bigger audience, and then we could help someone else coming up new and put them onto the wave and do certain things and do shit the right way, how like things are supposed to be done. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
And that's no cap, dude. That's not a lie. That's like the truth, bro. I don't have anything written down. I got this from what you guys got. Like, you can see me right here. It's all the truth. This is Nick talking, So I want to say thank you guys, all four of you. Seriously.
Of course, no problem.
Of course, man. That means a lot. And I'm just gonna say this to you, Nick. I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. I just turned 18 last month, and I've only interacted with a few wrestlers. A couple times I've been nervous, a couple times I haven't. But with you, you're the most genuine person I think I've ever come across. You don't bullshit, you don't lie, you don't fabricate anything. You're as real as it fucking gets, man. I'm telling you.
And that's that's a big compliment, and like that's like a great compliment. So it's like, and that's one of the best compliments I've ever got, where it's like, even, and that's one thing that kind of like keeps keep you going, dude, because like anybody, doesn't matter who it is, they all get down in the dumps, you know, and it's tough, dude. It's a fucking sad song. And like the reason why I kind of like the way I am now is because a lot of people know just the great things about like when it comes to wrestling, but like me being in a wrestling family, you know, there's obviously a very dark road that you can't talk about. So it's like you did dancing with the ghost of Christmas past every day. It's tough, but it's only made for like a certain people out there. And I just hope that, you know, I can, me being me and having the drive I have, hopefully I can fight for the guys who couldn't keep fighting. Hopefully I can fight for the families that couldn't keep fighting. Hopefully I can bring it to light for the people that don't have the light to be brung to, you know, and that's like the whole goal, you know what I mean? And that's like, you know, there's a lot of there's certain guys that you guys know of that there was such a big resignated heel, drew big money all around the world, were at the top of their game, and then when it was their time to go and they were getting pushed by a cart and so feared, so revered, they couldn't even hold up their head. They had to put their head down because they were so ashamed. But there were some guys that were on top in certain territories and had a great gasp of land and had a great gasp of everything, and then got so down on himself that he was living in his mother's basement. And he said, you know, when I die, I just want them to say, man, found dead in the alleyway. I don't want them to know who I am because I'm a fuck up. You know, and that's just, you know, there's a lot of different negatives to this wrestling business that a lot of people don't know about. A lot of things can't be talked to because you just respect those from the past, but it's like, it's a very sad song. It's not an easy song. That's why I said, you know, and that's what helps me grow. And like I said, it kind of goes back that like I don't blame man for their sin and for their mistakes. I don't mean to use sin because I don't want to offend anybody about any type of like religions and stuff like that. But I just was using it as a word. Like you can't blame the man for his natural mistakes because that is part of being man. Yeah. So, you know, that's one thing. And like I said, one more, it's thank you guys for putting me on once more. I got to say that. And we're rushing anybody off the show or anything like that. I could talk for as long as you guys want me to talk too. I'd actually like to answer a few more questions, but I just want you to let you guys know how appreciative I really am.
Yeah, of course, dude. Yeah, we're going to do, Antwan's going to ask the final serious question. Then we're going to go into the fun questions, and then it's turnover time. Then it's your questions that we're going to answer.
All right, cool.
Well,
Antwan, if you want to actually start the fun question round, or if you want to do one more serious, it's up to you.
we can actually get to the fun questions now because Nick, you actually answered my last serious question. You know, as you mentioned, you want to be a historian post your wrestling career. As you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you if you had any, you know, if there's anything you want to do outside of wrestling, you know, once it's all said and done for your, you know, in ring, you know, whether any roles or any different things you want to, you know, look into after, you know, you're done wrestling.
Yeah. So further, that is obviously yes to become a historian to give those guys like the head of, you know, like what they deserve, but it's also like I said, you know, Carnegie said, "A man who dies rich dies a disgrace." So like, obviously, I want to give back to the charities. I want to give back to the orphans. I want to give to the black community because there's one thing that my grandfather always did was, you know, Lebanon and Africa is not that far. The blood is connected. So it was always one thing that he did was, you know, he laid in the iron lung in Houston for the black community. You know, my father didn't give a shit that Bobo Brazil was black or that Dory Dixon was black. I mean, there was never none of that. And he always, you know, was right there for him, always put on for those boys, you know, and there's always love for that. So that's another thing I want to do. I want to put on for, you know, because Hartford is a community that like is an inner city community, and then obviously more minorities are more prevalent in the inner city. So I got brothers and like sisters and people that I love with the bottom of my heart that are from all different ethnicities. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, there's people good and bad everywhere in every little race, every little ethnicity. But it's like, you know, like if I could do anything like that to carry that legacy on, that's also definitely on my list and what I want to do because it's just the right thing to do, period.
Yeah.
And have a bunch of fucking fun and like, you know, put all my friends on and like have the laughs. But like in the serious, like we got to make sure like us we could play, but we got to pay, dude. We got to pay it forward. You got to pay it forward, man. And like, you know,
yeah,
it's just stuff that has to be done. Yeah. So that's kind of like always, that's all the stuff on my list, brother, for all things that I want to do.
All right. You can start that with the fun question, Antwan. Let's see what you got.
All right. Where Now, me as a child, I grew up behind a lot of cartoons growing up. So, what are some of your favorite cartoons you watch? You know, as a kid.
All right, so I loved Ed and Eddie, fucking Jawbreaker. I could never find one. God damn it. One fucking Jawbreaker in my town, anywhere, ever. So that would get me tight. And then when I finally found the Jawbreaker, I'm like, yo, this is whack. Who the fuck would want to have this? You know, like this is not wavy. But that was one. I loved Ed and Eddie. What was the little dog? The like Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage
That was
Yeah.
I have a cowardly dog too, dude. I'm gonna make you guys laugh. And he's like, he's not a coward. He's the spoiledest little brat ever. But he's actually like, he's a bully pit bull. He's a fighting dog. But like, I'm sure you can see his little face. He's literally the cowardly dog. He runs from his own little. Nah, he's like sleeping now. But this is my boy here. So he is my Courage the Cowardly Dog. You know what I mean? So I kind of get to have him. He runs from his shadow, but he's like 90 pounds. He could really do some damage. And he's a pit bull. He's made for the fighting pit, but he's like such a big baby. He's like coddled. He's got like 2 different kinds of foods, wet foods. Like I told my mom and dad, like, dude, do not feed him any not American food, any type of human food. They feed him everything. He don't get his hand out of nothing. Dude. He's like the baby of the house, completely coddled. So yeah, and then obviously, who's the freaking guy? The Bravo dude.
Johnny Bravo.
That dude, you know, I love that dude. Yo, South Park, controversial, effed up, South Park, bro, all the freaking way. Laughed, got mad and got offended, even cried on a few things, but laughed a lot nonetheless, dude. I mean, Family Guy is another one.
Mm.
And you know what, something as far as like cartoons and shit goes, 'cause everybody's talking about cartoons. My brother, Freddie, he has like a collection of, you know, comic books from like all the original Avengers and shit. My dad got him all that when he was on the road. So that was another thing I got to look into with like the comic books. So I was a big mark for He-Man because you could ride like a saber-toothed tiger. Who the fuck wouldn't want to do that? Big ass sword, you're a big brawny guy. You could kick anybody's ass and you ride a tiger, a saber-toothed tiger. And I don't think it was He-Man. There's another dude that rode like a black kind of tiger, like a Black Panther type of thing. That dude was badass. I like that guy too. Whoever they were, those guys were great. So yeah, that's my cartoons, man.
Steve?
I actually don't have anything, but off the top of my head, if you were to make a song, what 3 artists would you have featured on it?
Ooh.
Oh. All right, so like Marshmello is dope. You know what I mean? I think Marshmello drops crazy beats. I think he's got like Bastille and Marshmello. I think they're like a good duo. There's so many different feels, but like I'm gonna give you the Nick answer, which is gonna be a bunch of different answers. So I don't want to just pick one. But if it was like rap, bro, dude, I have a couple friends who were hard, but they're in jail now for like a long time, which sucks because they would have totally done something. So, but you know, like, regardless of that, dude, I like A Boogie. Don't at me.
It's
I
me,
like
my
A Boogie.
car.
I love Jadakiss, dude. Like, that's another dude.
Who's that?
Who's just said who's Jadakiss?
I did. Who's that? Who is that? Jason.
Oh,
Next
well.
question.
Damn, dude. Jadakiss, you know what Jadakiss is? All right, so Jadakiss is like great. You just gotta listen to him. Damn it, Nick. All right, so like I'll say Marshmello is great. Love Marshmello. I like Nat. Dude, I like everybody. 3 artists I can have on a song. You got me standing up and everything, contemplating my whole life right
Make
now.
it 30 if you want.
Jesus. All right, so I'm from Connecticut. 50 Cent. I'm a mark for him. Big time mark.
Who's
The guy
Steve.
Where's the Pop Smoke? Where's the little TJ?
Bro, Pop Smoke's I don't know who Little D is. I don't really want to know who Little D is, but Pop Smoke's okay. Pop Smoke's I don't want to say okay because like my friend loves Pop Smoke and he's gonna be mad when he hears this. Pop Smoke's all right. You know, like he's cool. Like he grew on me. At first, I could not stand him, but then like I kind of like I got a little bit of that vibe that you get from like that Dio. You know, like you get the vibe. That's kind of like, you know, music for me too. Like I have to get, you know, like there's a little saying and someone said it in a lyric and it's the truth, dude. You could walk the walk and you could talk it, but you got a funny vibe. You're just not the same. And you can see that the real seeks the bullshit. So like I get the, like when my vibe, like I catch a vibe with guys like, you know, like Dave East, you know, like I feel that vibe. I can hear certain things and it resonates for me. You know, like Flip De Niro, I like him, you know, like I kind of like not really biased a lot of things, but if I could drop like a banger, dude, I like Future, I like Drake. If I could book something, I'd put French Montana, Future, and Drake in on something and have them rip something up.
Good combination.
Yeah.
Yes, the smartest thing you said so far, Steve. The smartest thing you said so far.
It was better. You had like one specific person in there, but never mind.
No, don't get me started. Don't.
No, that's actually a damn good question. Like with me personally, if I had to make I also listen to all kinds of music, but I'm a big like rock music fan and stuff. And a big question that a lot of rock music fans ask is like, if you could make a dream band of a bunch of band members, who would it be? Personally, like I'd put Roger Taylor on the drums of Queen, of course. My favorite bass player of all time is actually Tina Weymouth of the Talking Heads. If you're familiar with who she is, she's brilliant. And then on lead vocals, that's tough to say.
Maynard
James Keenan? I'm not the biggest. We talked about this, Mike. I'm the hugest fan of Tool.
Evanescence.
That'd be unique. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I don't even know. I'm just a big music nerd.
Florida Georgia Line.
No.
Okay, that's enough. No. All right.
Steve, it's getting worse and worse.
I was never a big fan of country, but some country's all right too, man. Like you get the little, I get, you know, like so I heard some like little, I like love songs too, kind of, you know, like not like love songs, but you like kind of like a sad song because you know, like I don't know, like my grandfather was like a no nonsense type of guy, like straight for the sword, only the sword, and I get that, but my dad was also like kind of like that. You know, like lover type of guy, like a ladies' man. So I kind of have a little bit of that in my blood too. So it's like when I listen, he likes sad songs like The Weeknd and like because like his draw was to draw the women in and to like, you know, like feast on the woman and please the woman. So I kind of, you know, like sometimes his heart housed a certain of those songs, just like sometimes my heart housed a certain of those songs. That instinct. So yeah, dude, Weeknd. You know, like even like Tory Lanez, dude. That's my fucking bro. I love
Tory Lanez.
We put Tory Lanez on there, bro. Tory Lanez, yeah, dude. Anything like that.
With me personally, my issue with modern country is that on the male side of a country artist, it's I like to consume alcohol and drive my truck around and go hunting and such, and about girls. And then the female side of country is I will fucking murder any man who attempts to cheat on me. That's most of the time what
I gotta give you a fun fact.
Oh boy, Steve. Oh.
469 was a
guys
rapper.
are some players, bro. I guess those guys treat their women like, you know, similar to other guys, but it's kind of funny. I always hear like a little bit of the countryside songs. You got one. Imagine having a country argument like, Billy, you done cheated on me, that woman. No, I swear I didn't. But then it's like, come on. It's like I'm from Connecticut. I could never imagine. You know. But it's kind of funny. I find humor in it because it's like you don't really have those kind of accents out here. So I always pop for that type of shit. Like even like sometimes like when you go on like the internet, or not the internet, but like the car radio, and then you got like those little like anonymous calls and stuff like that. Like they're trying to like the Kiss 95.7 like heartbreak radio, like who's cheating, who's not. And it's like I always pop for some of that shit. It's really funny. And it's like, oh, you know, we got these roses. Who would you like to make them out with? And the guy's wife, someone's like, I'd love to make it out to my secretary, Julia. Juicy lips, baby. And it's like, and she's like, Michael, you fucking piece of shit. And it's like, I always pop for stuff like that. You know, because the Southern man is so polite, and so you'd never think it. But even them, even those guys, they screw up sometimes.
Oh. Steve, you would like to say a fun fact? I didn't hear that.
Random fun fact. 469 was a rapper. He was actually a part of a rock band, and they performed in Russia.
Okay, I'm going to move on to my question.
Hell no.
Shut up.
Oh, God.
So Mr. Curry, have you changed your theme song since Headstrong?
Dude, 100 times, bro. Did you guys did I ever have motionless and white voices in my head as a theme song?
Oh, sorry, I just had a stroke when I
What the
heard
fuck?
Well, dude, when you guys tagged me in the thing on Instagram, dude, I banged that song, and that was used to be one of my workout songs. I heard that from like a big time power lifter. He's actually like famous. Like you wouldn't even think like, oh, you're famous, but then that's not how the shit goes. Anyway, so it's like, yeah, dude, like I might use that as one of my theme songs because man, I've had like Summer of '69. It kind of is cool, but then it's kind of corny.
Ryan Adams? Hell yeah, I can get behind that.
Fuck yeah, bro. That's what I'm saying. I got a lot of people to sing along. That's why I like Limitless, bro, because I remember like one of my first matches was like a bigger match, and they were like weird. They were like a cohort of the show, and it's like got my first real 16.
Fuck yeah.
And then I had everybody's kind of singing, playing till my fingers bled.
Was
Yeah,
the
so I was
summer of '69? Yeah, that's the shit.
Dude,
That's the
so I
shit.
was like, all right, man, you guys feel the vibe. I got something there. But then also sometimes when you go to like Philly or other places, like everybody's like, oh, all right, but then you get like, like the outfield, your love, but voices in my head, like that might be one that I might debut because like everybody got them.
Oh, who sang that? Limp Bizkit?
No,
fucking.
no, Motionless. Oh my.
Ocean what?
Steve, get your dirty ass to sleep. I'll tag you with the Motionless song once
Good
this
God.
once this goes up. No, James.
Hey, I was interested. What school did you go to, and what did you study in college?
Okay, so I went to Springfield Technical Community College. It's getting transferred into just a technical college. But my curriculum was like a curriculum off of UMass. So pretty much the feeder program to it was Energy Systems and Technology, SYS. And it's like anything to do with like energy, heating and cooling on like massive schedules or like on like little small schedules. So, but what I got into, what would be the next thing would be an engineering degree. So I didn't get into like my engineering degree because, like I was lucky enough because the trades are down. Like a lot of people like with skilled trades, nobody's really wanting to do them. It's kind of a tough gig. And it is a tough gig. Sometimes I wonder like, damn, dude, like, all right, I might have to work at a hospital, but if I got booked at somewhere else, I'm leaving in 2 seconds. So it doesn't matter to me. My boss doesn't understand that because it's like, there's yins and yangs. But I went to school for pretty much heating and air conditioning, and now I have a job in heating and air conditioning. It's good, it's like it's a good job. It's like lucrative, you know what I mean? But it's not something, and that's another thing too. They always say, oh, you got to put all your eggs in one basket. You got to do this. You got to really commit and shit. So it's like a lot of people always said, oh, you could never be a pro wrestler. You're too small. Or, oh, you could never do this. You never be like your dad. Or you could never fill your dad's boots. It's funny. I'm gonna make a picture because I posted a picture of me training. It's like me and my dad's trunks and my boots, and the caption will be the boots fit perfect. So it's like everybody told me I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. But now I'm starting to be able to do some things. And like one of the things that someone would always say is like, never be able to do HVAC and then be able to do wrestling too, because you just can't burn the candle at two sticks. So it's always a thing for me was like when the challenge arrives and I'm doing it, it's tough, but I'm doing it. But I'm going to have to, everybody knows you have to make a choice at one point in your life. And I know what choice I'm going to make. And I know that I'm gonna go with that with contempt. So I'm not gonna go at it with like just the regular Joe Schmo, because a lot of things is different, bro. Like if you had talked to me 3-4 years ago, it would have been a different person you were talking to, because I was like kind of right out of the slaughterhouse. I had like a different mindset on things. My mindset was totally different. But now, which I'm thankful for working, because when you have a job like that, it irons you out on all levels, because you can't screw up or else you will blow off your hand. You cannot forget to do something or else something could go wrong. So if you fuck up, all right, you could mess up, you have mistakes, but some mistakes are not permissible. You will die. And one of them is like we were working near ammonia pipes at a giant like milk factory, and ammonia will kill you. And your insurance policy, they had to pay for a 30-mile radius for everybody in those houses, and if they died, they'd have to pay out that money. I couldn't tell you how much money that is. It's probably in the millions and billions. Who the freak knows? We dropped a wrench. It just meant a little ammonia stem. It'll leaked out into the guy told me if that would have popped, everybody in the factory would have been dead within a minute. You'd been choked and you would have went blind. And it would have been one of the worst deaths you can have. So things like that, you can't. But like being to that, going into those situations, like, all right, I'm keen now. Like, like the laser focus comes in. Like, it's not a job, dude. It's not. This is like somewhat life or death. And that was kind of like my toxic mentality I had in the past, because I was like, oh, a lot of people, it's you win, you lose, you go home. For me, it was you win, you lose, you die. I'm never coming home. If I don't get what I got to go to, I'm never coming back home to the people I know, because I can't. You'd never return if you don't have something on your shield. That's like what the Spartans used to say, you return with your shield or on it. So that was kind of like the mentality. But now it's a little bit different. So I'm thankful for the job, because it's made me pay attention to details, which is something I need, which is kind of scary, because it's someone saying like, damn, all this shit happened in the last 10 years. And it's like, wow, it's like a lot. It's like,
yeah,
I'm getting talked to kind of, and like I'm seeing certain little things, but I guess that's a topic of discussion for another day. But it's like, yeah, HVAC is what I'm doing, brother. Commercial, residential, and industrial.
Okay.
But some of the bigger stuff, some of the more dangerous stuff.
Evan?
Oof. Man.
This is the fun one. You can pull out whatever you got.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again.
All right. Well, I'm also a big movie nerd. What's your favorite movie, or who's your favorite filmmaker or something?
Okay. No Country for Old Men is a great movie.
The Coen brothers, man. Those two are fucking brilliant.
Right. I mean, those guys are brilliant. And then that is like a phenomenal movie. And that just is crazy. That's why I'm so proud of my father and my grandfather and their Texas culture, because that was the type of shit, and that was the type of people that were fucking around back then. And that was the kind of like that hitman they had, like it's not my place to say anything, but they had people like that present if shit was to go down in those territories. They had that, every office had that one guy where he would go blow up a building if another guy opened up a building to go into opposition, or if some guy was trying to, critique the certain wrestlers and cause imminent harm, they'd go missing. Shit like so. That was kind of like it's kind of like always kind of like float my boat a little bit, because Texas has that aura. You know what I mean? So it's like No Country for Old Men, The Departed. I love the gangster movies, because it's like the gangster movies always kind of like somewhat hit home to me, because every time like I go to like the Italian pizzeria or the Italian or the Greek pizzerias, like always they all look like little mobsters, but they obviously weren't, but it was always like, and everybody always thought I was Italian, which I wasn't. I'm Lebanese, and my mom's German and Russian and Irish, but my dad's Lebanese. So it's like it kind of like is the connection that way too. And then the other way that I always like the mafia movies is because, it's somewhat has kind of always been part of like the somewhat of like, not saying my life, but like, like my dad's life, and like my great, like there's connections there. And it's like, even like I said, wrestling's for everyone, the good and the bad. You have fans and everything. So a lot of those mobsters were wrestling fans. That's how they grew up. They went to like Whitey Bulger was a fucking criminal murderer, but he went to the Boston Garden to watch my grandfather watch, Killer Kowalski. All those guys in the Detroit Mafia, they would go, a lot of those guys when they were growing up, they would go watch the Sheik, Dick the Bruiser. Same thing with Bruno in New York City. So that's why wrestling is for everything. You just get, when you have the world and you get the world, you got to take everything in it, the good and bad. So yeah, man, I love, like, Titanic is a good movie because I like history. I'm a history guy too, if you haven't realized. So I love history. So anything history related, I love it.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I like the murder mysteries and shit like that. It's just kind of cool.
Oh yeah. Since you mentioned The Departed, in my personal opinion, The Departed is Scorsese's most underrated film. Like, out of my number one favorite by Scorsese is definitely The Wolf of Wall Street, personally. But The Departed is really overlooked. I mean, how can you go wrong with a movie that has Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, Leonardo DiCaprio, and fucking
How much
Alec
of a
Baldwin?
and how much of a Shakespeare finish was it? I mean, it was a crazy finish.
It was,
Same
yeah,
thing
when
with
I first saw it, I was like,
So
holy
much of
shit.
both men, they both had that Shakespeare kind of like, what? So, dude,
Yeah, it's,
that's crazy.
mm.
Good for them, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is the probably our unique spot in the podcast. This is called the Turnover, where it's the Tuck Your Curry podcast with special guests James, Steve, Evan, Antwan, and Mike. So go ahead, whatever you got for us, we'll answer.
You ask us questions.
All right, so you guys want me with some questions, huh? You want me to ask some questions?
You're the interviewer now. Now it's
right.
our time.
So, what got everybody into wrestling from A to Z? Why, and for what, and who, and what do you want to do in wrestling? And then that's my question for all four for now. I got a bunch of other little questions too, little goofy questions.
Yeah. We'll start. Who wants to take it? James, you train, so
Yeah, I'll
I'll
start.
let you go. Yeah.
Sure. Man, dude, what got me into wrestling initially, my first experience with wrestling, I remember sitting down, this had to be like 95 or 6, and I just remember my dad popping open, Bud Lights and watching Stone Cold Steve Austin on the TV. I lived literally like an hour away from Victoria, Texas, so I mean, he was always my guy. And then, of course, I think when I graduated college in 2013, and then I first stepped into a wrestling ring and took a bump probably like 2015. No, it was 16 because I went to WrestleMania in Dallas, not too far off from the Dallas Sportatorium at AT&T Stadium. And when I got into that ring and realized how freaking blown up I was and how much pain I was enduring, that was when I was like, okay, it was exactly what you said. This is not easy. I don't know how these guys have been making it look so easy for years. But I have never had this, I've never had goosebumps while experiencing severe pain. And I love this. And I came back every freaking time. And it was that like, I guess you said it perfectly, all the self-doubt and the self-challenges that came with it. Because it is an individualized sport, for the most part, but you are working with the coach and instructor. So it was at that point where I was like, dude, this is something I want to do. And then, of course, I got injured. And now I'm like, dude, I just want to, exactly like what you said, I want to help others understand why I'm so passionate about this industry and this business. Because it has provided me an escape. It's provided me a way to meet friends, meet good people. And it's provided me a way to stay empowered so I can empower others.
Yeah, man.
So no matter what it is, whether it be a podcast, whether it be setting up a ring in a bingo hall, I don't care. I'll do anything when it comes to, being in this business. And hopefully, by talking to individuals like yourself and learning, just staying open to any communication from anyone. And information, I can get there. You know what I mean? That's my goal, is to just somewhere along the line, just connect the dots later and be like, oh, well, this is how I got here.
Yeah, no, man, dude. I think you guys. I think you guys have all the. Oh shoot! Sorry. Hold on. Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Sorry.
are.
I just had to cancel someone who was trying to call me. Sorry. Nah, man. I think. You're very professional by the way you talk, dude. So I would imagine that someone, and especially you guys have about 4,000 or 7,000 followers right now?
Well, it went down to 4,000, but we're doing good.
Listen, the fluctuation is the fluctuation, but regardless, you guys are doing great, and you have a very I said this before everybody got on. You're very professional. Very good. And I see like things for you guys in the future. And like, we'll never tell someone that unless I like really believe that. And that's like, something that I think that you guys might really have something with. And it's like, that's why I love that you guys asked me to be a part of your show because it hits different in a lot of different ways. Because you guys are grinding for it, you're trying to get your due, just like I am, and it's like, hey, I didn't know you guys for Adam except for Mike, but then now, friends for life. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, I think you guys got it, man. I think you have the right idea. I think you guys are the right type of people we need in the business. And to further it, it's not like, a cap of any sort, but it's like I got plans to, because certain things my dad always flirted with, like, hey, I wanted to start like a little bit of a promotion and do a few things and try to, like, have a little bit of fun, and like that's his way of furthering his legacy by training a few people, training me, training a couple others, you know what I mean? Train Bobby Fulton, trained a lot of other people that like were really, really, good and done very, very well. So one of the things he wants to do is open up a school and like have wrestling shows. So if I was ever able to do that, it'd be something I will have you guys in mind as far as like commentary and shit like that, because you guys have the voice, you have the knowledge, you guys have the, like, I think you guys could have some fun with this shit, man. If not really make something out of it.
Yeah.
Just like, and that's what all you could really ask, in our positions is either to have fun with it or to really make something out of it. Because, it's important to be like a big ball of fire, but it's also to be, important to be humble. But don't be too humble, because that can screw you up in a way itself too. But yeah, man, all the support for me, bro.
Thank you.
More to everybody here.
I appreciate that, Nick. I'll go next. So there was it was 6 years ago on a specific night, and I saw this thing happened, and everyone was like, "Oh, you came in at the right time." So the first thing I saw was a Raw in 2014, and the Shield broke up. That segment was the first thing I ever saw. And from that, it was the longest storyline, one of the best storylines I ever saw. Ambrose, Rollins, Reigns just feuded. It was just forget. And then, I love doing the podcast, man. I wanted to do this for a while, and I think this is a good way to get a foot inside the door somehow. But by interviewing wrestlers and stuff. And I mean, you just said it. We're professional, and we have the right voice for commentary. That I would love to commentate.
Professional, man. The right voice for commentary, and you guys can like I said, it goes back to that old saying. You could talk the talk, and you sure could walk it, but you got a funny ass vibe. And like the real you can always sniff and point out the real, and like the people with that trained eye can always tell. And I'm not saying I have that trained eye, and I'll never say I'm the end all be all, but from my judgments and the people that I know and I've been in tune with, I'll say that, you guys are stand-up guys, and I would have I could totally back this type of a brand, You guys are cool, man. You're for wrestling. You understand it. You know what I mean? And it's good to see that, because a lot of people, it's always good to see good in wrestling instead of the bad and the negatives and stuff like that. And like, hey, we're all young. We're all part of this generation. I know you guys have those little vets that in the business that they think they're, the end all be all. I say, hey, don't be cocky, asshole. But then, you're cocky. You have nothing to be cocky about. You know what I mean? Then they tell you certain things and they lead you down the wrong paths. Hey, man, you guys like that. Or this new crowd that needs to thrive in wrestling is not like that. And that's why I'm glad we're all connected. So, yeah, man, I'm curious for the brand for sure. Tuck your chin. And I'm going to buy one of your guys' stuff, too, because I like that. Tuck your chin, because that's the way for life, brother.
We got the anniversary, and then we got
Fire.com.
Yeah, man, because in boxing that was the deal, bro. When I was going in there, I said, man, it's all, well, how do I do this shit? And it's like, oh, it's the whole goal is to hit and don't get hit. And when you throw those punches, you just tuck your chin and get it in. Like just go for it. So
most important thing.
Yeah, I'll go next if that's
sure.
cool. Well, I was born in 2002, so with me personally, I grew up during the Ruthless Aggression era, and my mother's a wrestling fan, and she's the only reason why I got in wrestling. Granted, she's 40 now, and she's nowhere near as much of a wrestling fan as I've been, but nonetheless, just as a kid, my mom would watch wrestling, and as a child, it was on. and I just kind of got invested in it. And when I was a kid, I didn't really like know a lot about wrestling as much as I do now, but I was aware of a lot of the guys. You know, some of the first guys that I ever was introduced to was people like Triple H, like Cena, like Eddie Guerrero, like Chris Benoit, like Owen Hart, like Bret Hart, the entire Hart Foundation. The list goes on for all the people that I recognize. I got familiar with the comedy wrestling, like fucking the Hurricane and Eugene. Those guys were great back in the day. They were hilarious. And then over a course of time, I got to really get a good understanding of the ins and outs of wrestling. And it wasn't until by the time I was maybe between the ages of like 12 to 14 where I was like, okay, so you know, now I understand everything. And the biggest reason why I'm such a wrestling fan is because personally, if you put your physical well-being on the line for the sake of entertainment, then I respect you more than fucking anything. And that's why this is a weird connection, but that's why I'm such a big fan of the Jackass crew, because those guys would hurt each other for the sake of comedy and entertaining people, and I respect that.
Those guys, by the way, that was another person I was supposed to say that I forgot to put on. Love Jackass. Used to watch those guys all the time. And Wild. So fucking fun.
Oh yeah, they were amazing. So yeah, I'm just a huge wrestling fan, and like with wrestling, you know, what I love a lot about it is how it can hit you on a very emotional level. As a matter of fact, out of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, those being Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, CM Punk, and AJ Styles, my number 1, those are my 4, but number 1 out of the top 5 is Daniel Bryan. And the biggest reason why Daniel Bryan is my number 1 favorite, aside from him being a brilliant technician, is at WrestleMania 30, when he won that world title in the main event, I fucking cried. And the reason being is because of the brilliant storytelling, because they pit him up against the Authority, and the Authority was always saying to him, oh, you're never going to fucking be anything, you're too small, you're never going to win the title, you're going to be a failure in this business. And then at Mania, in the main event, he fucking won. And just every time I watch that match, it hits me in my soul, and I start to tear up every time, because it just gets me, you know. But yeah, like with wrestling, you know, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I'm 18 years old now, and yeah, I enjoy it very much, even, you know, when sometimes it's good and it's bad. You know, the quality of it can fluctuate, but you know, It is what it is. But yeah, that's the biggest reason I'm a wrestling fan, is because I just grew up around it, and then, you know, like in the later years, I got a good understanding of how everything works, and yeah.
Steep 9. How did you get into wrestling, my friend?
I've been watching wrestling since yesterday, and okay. My dad was a wrestling fan. My grandpa was a wrestling fan, and my grandpa, he would play for me until I was old enough to watch it, like, you know, put it up on myself. And, you know, in one room it would be my uncles watching TNA, and in the other room it would be, you know, my grandfather and dad watching Raw or SmackDown, whatever it was. So, you know, wrestling was big on my family. They would used to, bro, I have them, my uncles, I have photos of them dressing up as DX, and my grandfather's just Ric Flair booing in the corner. And, you know, I got hooked onto wrestling, and I don't think that, you know, whether it's a sport, whether it's a comedy act or not, it's one of the most athletic things you're going to see people doing.
Yeah.
And it's one of those types of entertainment that, like, performed at its best, you can't, like, it's tough to say that, like, you know, you got movie, that's entertainment. You got fucking music, which is entertainment. You got boxing, you got mixed martial arts, you got all different types of actual entertainment. But when done at its peak, what makes pro wrestling special is it's an open sea of vast open seas of endless opportunities. You could do a lot of different shit. You can go from happy to sad to serious to cry, you know, X, Y, Z. But the shit you see in wrestling, it's not a movie. It's not edited, even though some of the stuff looks like it. And then, like, you know, it's not a movie, dude. It's not, you know, like, it's not fake. It's, you know, it's a show, but I guess, you know, like, the word work and fake, when you say it to the old timers, is a very touchy thing to say. Sometimes I get a little bit touchy about it, because even though, yes, it is a show, but, like, those are real risks you're taking. You're flirting with real disaster. A lot of times these guys are flirting with real imminent death, danger, and disaster for fucking pennies and peanuts. You know, that's why a lot of the times before I used to look at Janela and other guys and I'm like, you know, but now I realize that, dude, I'll give them the respect. These dude, They took the chance, they took the risk. Any man has to respect stuff like that. So like, yeah, dude, when pro wrestling, you can't get anything like it in any other kind of a deal. And what's better of it is that even though some of the stuff is larger than life, it's still real because like you can still see it. You can still see the flag. It's still right there. It's not like it's behind the screen. It's still, like if you can catch that kind of like a drift. So that's why I always because I always used to wonder like, how do you, because you go through your thoughts process like, wrestling, how is it still around? Like, how is it not dead? Like, like wrestling, just, always think with this, like, reason being is because, dude, you can't get that shit anywhere else, dude. You can't get that from fucking movies. You can't get that from MMA. You can't get, and let me tell you something, MMA, listen, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, fucking UFC, dude, they stole it all from pro wrestling. Every one of them. It's all, this is professional wrestling. They should be cutting us all a check and giving us all dividends like the wrestling society. Because, dude, literally, you see CNN, they say wrestling related shit. Then you see Fox News, and they say wrestling related shit, and they're trying to put it in their own. It's like, dude, you gotta, And that's what is funny. Everybody says, "Oh, this is work, that's work." Dude, it's all work, bro. And they owe us all a big favor because we're the one who put them on. So I hope every wrestling fan, when they try to shit on us, you always remember that. And any guy who tries to shit on the wrestlers, you always remember that. And you remember that wrestling has always had the money, and that's why everybody's always came to wrestling. So, and make no mistake, dude, whenever there's money into something, it's a lot of it's a work. And that goes for anything, boxing, wrestling, football, whether you like it or not. Always got to be a couple guys that know the deal and then everybody else could be dumb. Still a work.
Yeah. Antwan.
All right, so for me, that's quite a bit of a. I always ask myself that question when I first got in. Like, how did I even get into this? But I guess I can honestly get the best confidence I can by saying that, one day I just happened to couldn't find anything on TV, so I was just flipping through some channels, and then what so happened to come up was Monday Night Raw. This was around 2011 when CM Punk, he was on the cusp. I think it was around the summer of Punk. He was on the cusp of leaving, and he was facing off against John Cena at Money in the Bank, and then they did this story where he won the championship and supposedly left the company, but then signed a new contract and then came back, and then of course on. When Triple H, he was the storyline COO. For me, what fascinated me the most about this was the fact that wrestling is a unique art, a form of entertainment different than other sports. I see other sports and I'm like, I can't get into this, but when it comes to pro wrestling, I see something different out of it. You have characters, you have guys shaking some guys shaking their butts on TV. Folks coming out dressed in costumes, folks coming out just doing these crazy high flying moves and all kinds of stuff. It's like you're from entertainment. It's like I love that stuff because it entertains me. It gives me something different and something to be able to be entertained by and not feel like it's something that has to be too broad or serious in a way to kind of make me feel like I have to watch this, but rather something for me to just enjoy. And I got over the years, I was able to really learn much more about wrestling and start looking up some stuff in the past, and then looked at some things in the present. And eventually it kind of led me towards watching other newer promotions that are out now. I got more into Impact, then same thing along with Ring of Honor at one point in time. Then Lucha Underground was here, and I was just engulfed by so much of this wrestling, And I even said to myself since the day I first started watching this, I wanted to be in the business. And there are a lot of roles now I want to portray in the business than just say per se wrestle again, get in the ring. I want to do commentary, managing, et cetera, et cetera. I want to be able to live my life through this fantasy, the way it's told, in this art form, being able to portray a different side of myself, instead of having to feel like, I have to be just. See, one thing I love about myself is it's always great to be myself. I always like to sometimes take myself out of reality and portray under a different vision, if that makes sense. I want to be able to portray a different character, a different side of myself. That way, people can understand. Like, look, you see this nice guy, me, this nice cool me, but then you got this other guy who's a bit different, a different vast, and and I like I said, I was really engulfed a lot into like the characters, the storytelling, the storylines, everything that's kind of been that's presented on wrestling, today. You know, I can say that, for me, it's my long desire to be in the business, and to train alongside some of the best athletes in the world, and just make, rise to the top, While also I want to be able to, as you mentioned, we all of us, you say, we all sound like great commentators, so we do commentary and whatnot. I actually have aspirations to do that, to get back at the commentary table, and then, being able to learn so much about the history of the business. I like to be able to talk wrestling and, have a voice to share along with others who have the same vision as I do, or if they have different visions, I like to hear their take upon things, and that's one thing I give credit to. I give credit where credit to this podcast. When I had the opportunity, when Mike and gave me this opportunity to be on here, it gave me a chance to kind of share my vision, my thoughts on the wrestling business, the thoughts about, wrestling as a whole. And I want to be able to have that kind of mindset, upon in the business, is being able to kind of share that same vision and being able to express myself. You know, Obviously, like I said, I got the chance to learn the history of pro wrestling, sport, thinking at it from an entertainment standpoint, and understand that, wrestling, people they're gonna say whatever they want to say about it, whether you like it or whether you don't like it, everyone wrestling is for everyone. But also at the same token, be able don't be afraid to kind of like share your vision, what your take upon things is. If it's something that no one likes, don't be ashamed to admit what you like. I have different perks, different takes upon what I see, because I see wrestling as different things, than just say being just pro wrestling. I see it as, entertainment. I see it as an art, being an art form, seeing it in a different vision, in a unique capacity of having characters, storylines and whatnot being put together on TV. It's different from other sports on how they portray their things. And as you mentioned, other sports and other different forms of media out there, they stole and they took in some things from wrestling.
Everything, dude. To completely took, like the promo style, like, they look to us for the blueprint, you know. So like it's funny because all the news love the shit on professional wrestling, all. But dude, you are like your things, you're jocking the whole thing off of it. UFC, oh, pro wrestling's fake, dude. All right, but it's like, dude, everything you're doing, it's like you're doing it half as good as we can do it, but just respect the art and respect what we do, because it's not, dude, it's not just a sport. Like every sport at its high form is an art. What we do is like poetry in motion. It is an art, and it is like something that is completely different and can't really be like there's not, okay, this wrestling, and then like there's not like an alternative to pro wrestling, except for like different kinds of pro wrestling. Like pro wrestling is pro wrestling. It's by itself. It's in its own league. It's not like, which obviously, like I said, anybody can argue a point whether it's right or wrong, and there's yings and yangs and exceptions to a lot of things. But if you can catch my drift, man, that's why I think wrestling is so special. And like, that's what you just hit on. And that's what, everybody else is kind of like hitting on. So it's cool. We all kind of have that same, like philosophy, mentality behind everything.
Exactly. Well, as you mentioned, man, it's like with pro wrestling, I see different spectrums out of pro wrestling, different spectrums. Being able to see wrestling today, I look at every promotion out right now. I get a chance to look at what everyone's doing, and the one thing that I see a lot of the fan base on social media that they like to do is saying that, okay, well, this company is better than that company because they do this, they do that, and I'm like, everyone's kind of doing a bit of the same in terms of presenting entertainment, because at the end of the day, professional wrestling, it's art. You're delivering, you're capturing a sense of entertainment to give off to millions of people that are watching. You're everyone's kind of like everyone's presenting their own style, their own way of kind of like presenting television, through the form of wrestling, with that spectrum being in the entertainment aspect. Looking at it, you have these characters that's coming out and performing and doing stunts, cutting promos and being able to deliver quality matches. You know, it all to me it fascinates fascinates me a lot. You know, and that's why other forms of media and sports out there, I say that, well, it seems to me they owe wrestling a lot, because to me, you're the fact that you're taking different aspects of what wrestling is doing. You're taking aspects. You know, you're taking the I see in the UFC in the post conference in the press conferences, their little jabs and whatnot, and their little way of trying to promote their little fights and stuff. You know, no disrespect, but it's like you're taking bits and pieces of what wrestling is doing and implement it into your form of sports, your form of way of trying to say, well, we're presenting this fight. You know, this is how we do things. And I'm like, yeah, and guess what? Some of that stuff you got from professional wrestling, because a lot of what I see that you're doing is specifically art, coming from pro wrestling. That pro wrestling already established. Pro wrestling established promos. Pro wrestling established segments. Pro wrestling established matches. Pro wrestling established characters. Pro wrestling established storylines. Professional wrestling established professional wrestling entertainment. When you have a sport and you're basically trying to hype things up and putting these kind of little small bits and pieces of things that obviously came from pro wrestling. You don't credit pro wrestling for anything. And so some of these fighters out here that like to claim, oh, pro wrestling is fake. I'll never want to do that. Here's the thing though. You claim that, but here's the thing. Your supposed promotion you work for, guess what? They're looking at what pro wrestling is doing. They're looking at it. And even yourself, you're a mark for yourself, because you're taking pro wrestling, you're taking elements of pro wrestling to put in what you're doing. You know, what I see out of MMA and whatnot, it's like I see bits and pieces of how they're trying to do, trying to put in pro. I seen this video. This was last year. I seen a video, and it was just I think it was Conor McGregor. I think he climbed on top of the cage and he jumped on to a bunch of these guys that was in that altercation. It was an argument going on, and I was like, this. They took this from pro wrestling. They took that, because this the kind of stuff you would see in a wrestling ring. This kind of stuff you actually see. So that's why I'm like, other sports, they look up to pro wrestling as inspiration, and that's why I say when they want to give their own 2 cents about things, saying that they do their own thing and whatnot. It's like pro wrestling is what you get your little inspiration. It's what you get your elements and per se of what you do. And that's why I say, pro wrestling to me will always be the best, because it's different, it's unique, it's special. No, not a lot of people understand that. A lot of people want to go around saying that wrestling is fake. Okay, you want to say wrestling is fake. You want to say, what these guys, they can't really, they don't really get hurt, this and that. It's like, how do you know how a person feels if you're not in the ring yourself? How do you know how a person that takes a amount of bumps? How do you know if the storylines they give off? How do you know it's fake per se? Are you telling the story yourself? Are you working for a promoter that actually is trying to make money and promote storyline, promote fights, at least the big time matches, on pay-per-view? Are you someone that know how to portray a character on TV? Do you have the acting ability? You have the ability to be able to tell a story, sell a bump, being able to just be a pro wrestler in your own right. Before going off saying wrestling is fake, how about you lined up in a wrestling school, pay thousands of dollars, and understand what it means to be a pro wrestler? So how about get off your mark pants and go learn how to be a professional wrestler? Because obviously you're too scared to get in the ring yourself. You don't know what pro wrestling is. You don't know don't know what it means to be a pro wrestler, what the pro wrestlers go through. That's why I commend you Nick, because you go out there, you do your thing. You entertain the crowd, you go out, you perform at the highest levels you possibly can, and you have aspirations to succeed in the business. A lot of people, they can't live up to what you do in the ring. They can't do that because they're too busy criticizing what you do, and that's being a wrestler. They're too busy doing that. And that's why I say not a lot of people have respect for the business, because they don't understand the business. And that's why it pisses me off at times, because like, you can't say this is fake if you've never done this before in your life. You can't say this. You can't really say that. To me,
and it's like a big thing is like a lot of people speak out of turn, which is another thing. Like I said, people make mistakes, and then you got to be understanding. But I wholeheartedly back you 100% on that, and that's exactly the way I feel on a lot of things as well too. And you hit it like right on the ass on everything. But it's like a lot of people don't have the same respect for the business. So a lot of people in the business now don't have that. They don't give themselves enough credit, I would say, and which is a byproduct of that is like they don't have enough respect for it. They don't have enough respect for what they do. They don't see the value in themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's intricate, but yeah, no, man, it's and thank you, by the way, too. Thank you.
Hey, no problem, man. When it comes down to professional wrestling, I always defend this because I used to go to back when I was in high school. You know, I used to have a lot of people come up to me tell me how much wrestling is fake and I shouldn't be liking this. And I used to tell them all the time, well, you sound like a dumbass because guess what? To me, professional wrestling, I say all the time, I think it's the realest sport out there. I back professional wrestling every single day, no matter who wants to sit and bash this because they don't understand this business, how it works. This is not ballet. This is not something that you just oh well they're just a bunch of guys and a bunch of title wires. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah, and guess what? They're a bunch these guys that you call that. They're out there putting their bodies on the line for a lot of people's entertainment. It's not just always about the money. It's not always about the money. It's about the passion, how much heart they give, how every given night. That's why people that wants to insult what performers are doing every single night. You know, it's like these guys they work their ass off every single night to perform entertainment to deliver to the fan base, to the audience.
Yeah.
And you know whether you have an arena full of people, or whether you don't have, or whether you have an empty arena, or whatnot, you have your obligations to go out there, do the best you can, perform at the highest level you possibly can, and just deliver entertainment to the audience. You know as well as I do, because when it comes down to it, the moves that you take in that ring, it gets brutal. Professional wrestling is not ballet. It's not something that you just make up. You literally go out there and you perform and put your body on the line to try to make a living and to try to entertain millions of people who enjoys this just as much as you do. Because if you believe in your work, you can succeed. People that see that success, see that you care for it, it makes them care for it even more because they know you have passion for this, and it encourages them to stick to this. That's why I say all the time, professional wrestling is the best. It does get no better than this business. It's unique, it's special. Can no one emulate what pro wrestling does on a night-to-night basis? Doesn't matter what promotion it is out there. Everyone's out there delivering professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you may want to call it. Everyone's out there delivering entertainment their own way, doing something special, doing something for the audience their own way. There is no but they are no, there ain't no buts anywhere. Everyone's delivering entertainment. Everyone's working their butts off. Everyone's providing entertainment. Everyone's out there putting their bodies on the line, making a living, doing it what they can because they love professional wrestling. And at the end of the day, if you're a fan, you're watching this, you're enjoying professional wrestling, guess what? The wrestlers out there, they commend you because that's what it makes them motivated, want to go to work, do this on a night-to-night basis because that's how much they care. Some in this business, there are some, you know, who may get tiresome, who might start to lose that bit of passion. But they need that motivation to keep their head up and know that, look, this isn't about money anymore. Think about it. This is about being able to motivate yourself and here's to entertain yourself. Love your work, love what you're doing, and being able to cultivate that with millions of people. Because it's not just about, you know, well, I wonder if I'm gonna make. Well, I wonder how much I'm gonna make by just coming out here and just doing this one single move. No, it's about going out there, willing to put your body on the line, whether it's go through a table, tax, freaking what's the best way? What's some of those? Hell, if it's off the top of a steel cage, fuck right now, like off the top of a steel cage to a table somewhere where you're jumping nearly 10 feet off the top of a steel cage down to a table that's on fire. You're out there delivering entertainment and performing at the highest level you can possibly can to entertain the fans out there, and most importantly, entertain yourself, because you know you love your work, you're humble, and you're willing to do what you can to put it on the line for everyone, for yourself and for the audience.
Yeah.
For me, I love professional wrestling like that because it's special, it's unique, and it's something like I said. I want to be part of the business myself. You know, I want to give back to. I want to help contribute and give back to pro wrestling like it's done for me over the years. And that's why I say to me, this is special. It's more than, it's not even just a sport to me anymore. It's my life. It's something I live to do. I literally take time out behind watch wrestling highlights every day for a living because I like to study this stuff. I like to be able to learn so much more about it and be able to want to live it. That's how much this means to me. It's not just another thing anymore. It's all about being able to take part in something that's more than just a quote unquote, oh, well, I mean, wrestling is fake. It's different. No, it ain't fake. It may be fake to those who are afraid to go out and do it, but it's not fake to someone that actually wants to go out and do it and who actually has passion.
Yeah,
You feel me?
the injuries aren't fake. The repercussions aren't fake. Absolutely, and that's kind of like, I tell you what, dude. Dude, growing up as like the son of a wrestler and growing up like in those, that's why it didn't matter, bro. Always, you know how things are when you go to school. You got to fight your way for whatever. If you're in the football team or you're on the lacrosse team, you got to fight with this guy. That dude, I always held it down because I always knew, you know, what was really up, dude. And I always fought for that, the pride of that. I don't think there's a lot of people that fight for that type of shit anymore, especially like me. I go into a bar, I have a problem with somewhere. They insult what I have or they insult my dad, then I try to act on it, and I try to do it and it's like, that's I hear what you say, dude, in every little essence of what you're saying. And it's just good to hear that there's other people out there like that. You know what I mean? It's really good for that. It's really good.
Yeah, Antwan, that was that was
Good perspective.
Yeah, that was a better response than all of us had. Yeah. So Nick, whatever else you got for us, man, ask away.
I mean, what do you guys got coming up next, man? And then like, do you have any all right, so like I have a lot of good things that I have going for me. I got like athleticism. I have I guess people would say like like a look, and then like I got my dad and my grandfather and the legacy. But like everybody can learn and everybody needs to get better. And one of the things that I'm trying to get better at and learn about is like Twitter, is learning about Facebook, is learning about Instagram and how to like really start to like use them all, three of them, to mesh together and to be more active, to get bigger social media presence, which is vital. And like I'm not doing them with bots and I'm not doing them fake. I'm kind of doing it all natural, which is I guess a little bit harder, but it is what it is. And it's like like what advice would you have for me per se? And what kind of like gear, because I'm gonna get new gear ideas and stuff like that. Like any little ideas or any little advices or quirks, man, I'm open for it, and I'll take them into serious consideration.
I think this is a James question.
I mean, I think he says that because I help run the page and get reach.
Yeah, just a bit.
I don't know how to answer this one.
Personally, man, what I did for myself, because I graduated with a degree in exercise science, so I'm a personal trainer, like a strength coach down here, and one day I was just like, dude, I got kind of tired of seeing a lot of myths and seeing a lot of just total nonsense on social media, and I didn't have a presence on there. I had like 300 something followers, and dude, I just started one day just putting out info. I complimentary information, whatever it was, whether it had to be nutrition, training advice, how to get over soreness, how to eat better, lose this, whatever. And I just started getting a following, and then I was looking at a couple of like small businesses, because what I was trying to do is similar to what you do, is trying to build a brand, trying to build an image. And with that being said, I was looking at a lot of these small pages, like how are they getting so much reach? How are they getting this 10,000 followers? How are they getting people to go to their page? And I started seeing, okay, there's hashtags that are trending. There's certain things that people look for, attention grabbers like emojis and things like that. But most importantly, it's just staying always on it. And that's probably the hardest thing. because within like I think about the last 4 weeks since the beginning of June, I got my own following on Instagram up like 3,000 followers, and then with the Tuck Your Chin podcast, I was able to get them up from like 300 to like 5,000 in like a week, and we didn't buy any likes, we didn't buy any bots, nothing. It just came. And now whether or not they're people that are gonna drift away, that's fine. I just want them to come and see.
Yeah. No, yeah, but like even if they do drift away, that's okay because you're like you said, it's fine. But they come, they see, they realize, and they get invested because that's how you can. Dude, I know how it is on Instagram too. Something he said to me too. He says, you're good, you're great. You just have to do, you got to get a little bit more present on social media. Just like, follow, post, repost. Like hashtag your shit and like, he gave me some good perspective and it sucks because I kind of haven't quite been able to execute as much as I'd like, but for what it is worth over the last like year or so or however long I had my Instagram, I'm up to like 560 followers and stuff like that. My Facebook is almost maxed out and I just literally like as in like a few days ago started up my Twitter account, so it's like I'm going to take all these things into deeper and better consideration. And one of the things I'm going to start doing is like, quarantine's been driving me to work so crazy. So I'm going to get the new gear. I'm going to get the new, photos. I'm going to get all the new things that you need to do and like revamp and like revitalize, like, and really, like I said, have like the high virtue in my shit to like make people want to invest a little bit more in my shit. And another thing I want to do is like, kind of like how you said, man, post the stuff, and like one thing I like to do, like I'm totally going to do is, because one of the things that kind of would always get me angry is like Black History Month in wrestling, and then nobody would sing the fucking songs about Dory Dixon. They don't talk about Sailor Art Thomas. They don't talk about Bobo. They don't talk about, like everybody, it's like, and everybody's claiming like, all this stuff and like, but nobody's like, dude, like, why are you not giving my boys the proper fucking due that they deserve? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying my boys because it's like, but it's like, damn, dude, like, why are you not giving these people what they deserve and like the shit they've done about them? It's old and you don't want to, is that the, fuck that, you know what I mean? No. So now I feel like that's my duty. That's the reason why I have the old school stuff. That's why I feel like it's my duty to try to put those guys back on to make sure they still have that presence, dude, because they, like, my parents had to, like, they had to go earn it, and they had to. So thankful, and I'm like privileged, and I'm blessed. And part of those privileges and those blessings came from the hard work of all these different people. You know what I mean? So that's why it's like a little bit different for me. So yeah, man, I will heed that lecture, and I will heed that advice for sure, and I'll get better on that. And that kind of like confirms my own thoughts as well. So. It's nice to know that I wasn't so far off on the track. And it's nice to see through you that gives me more inspiration. Like, okay, it's not saying like, it's not taken away from anything. It's just that fine line where you can't get too lost in thoughts. It's like, okay, you did it and you did it this way. Maybe I could do it this way. It gives me that inspiration, but it doesn't go to the part and so far as like, oh, well, you're this guy. If you could do it, then I can do it. Anybody. No, it's not. That's where the fine line I spoke about earlier, that everybody's got to make sure they stay in their own lane. And like, it's kind of like how people talk about with moderation. So it's like, yeah, man, I'm going to take that, I'm going to heed that advice because like and thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And when I get off of this call, I mean, one of the first things I'm going to do is go, because I'm real active on my Instagram, is go post a story and tag you in it and try to get you more reach, and tell everybody how freaking awesome the experience was, and make, every one of my followers knows that when it comes to, it's either I'm at the gym or I'm doing something with this podcast or something at home. So they know the wrestling part's there. It's always going to be there. So a lot of my followers are wrestling fans. I'm trying to get them to see, hey, dude, we're talking to these people that are in quarantine. They're not able to go out to these independent shows and perform right now. This is the only way that they can get their craft seen and man, just be outspoken right now during these times. It's so crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
man.
what's another good thing, that even though Corona, but like now we have so many wrestlers that we interviewed. It's like I don't think we would have ever been able to do this if it was normal.
Yeah, man, and that's like the yin and yang, such as life. Because I think about myself and even certain things in my personal life. It's like, man, if I didn't go through this quarantine, I would have never been able to do this, you know, or if I didn't go through this quarantine, like, let's face it, you know, a lot of people are working people. When the hell are we ever going to be able to have a 3-month break and be able, or like however long break and be able to get away with it? Never, you know? So like,
Yeah.
there is the yin and yangs, and there is the, you know, the good and the bads, and there's a way to, like, you know, it's kind of like what I hinted towards earlier. It's like evolving and like rolling with the punches, like the old saying, rolling with the punches. Like this, you got punched this way, you got to roll with it, you got to eat it. You know, you're on your fast track to one way, you get hit, you got hit off your tracks. All right, you're not going to hit the gold mine, but you know what? The diamond mine's right there. Let's hit the diamond mine. Oh,
Yeah.
if it's depressing, but you got to cut your losses like that somehow. So it's like, yeah, man, and yeah, dude, like this is a good thing, because who would have known? Maybe I would have been so busy, or maybe I would have, you know, missed it, or maybe I wouldn't have been able to, or who knows?
Exactly.
On accident, slough this off, and I wouldn't have been able to meet you guys or like reach out to, like, you know, this crowd. So it's like, yeah, I'm thankful for it all, you know, and I see blessings in everything, man. 'Cause it's like,
Yeah.
without getting too deep into that stuff, yeah, man, like I'm thankful for it, and I see like good in a lot of things and blessings in a lot of things, dude. So I'm blessed to have you guys, you know, I'm blessed to meet you guys, and like now I have a new page to flip open, and like new people to help, and new people that I can say, hey, you know, if I was ever to be in that position of power, hey, you know anybody good? That's like, I got him, dude. It doesn't matter. He's not on fucking TV. It doesn't matter. He's still a star. You know, it doesn't, because one thing my dad always says, you know, don't get caught with the names and don't get caught with shit like that, because with TV, you make your own stars. You make your own shit. And that's another thing too, you know, like that's why wrestling is different, because you get put on, you get blessed. Not everybody's made a star. You could be made a great, raw, natural talent, but the way you become a star and the way you become better is by being put on and being blessed and being helped. So it's like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's the circle goes full round. The circle is goes its full way around.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree on that. So what else you got for us, Nick? One more, two more, whatever you got.
Who's your favorite indie promotions?
Creative
Ooh.
Pro. I got
Creative Pro?
Actually, I just wanted to say something, because earlier, Nick, your initial question was asking some advice and stuff like that. Well, my biggest advice to you is do, of course, what you're passionate about. Do what you set your mind to. And if anybody tries to, limit you, if everyone tries to hold you back, then you tell them to go fuck themselves, and you do what you want to do and what you're passionate about. And also on the subject of you getting, more recognition on social media, be careful on Twitter, because I've been using social media for a good chunk of my life now, and I've never seen a more negative place on the internet than Twitter. Twitter is a fucking cesspool of negativity, and it's horrendous.
It's kind of sad, because when I went into Twitter, I saw, and like I was expecting like a lot of good things, and I was expecting a lot, but then you got like, you know, like, and hey, I say fuck, you know, and everybody says fuck, but then it's like, you know, and I just think about like being an American, what a blessing it is to be an American, why everybody should have their own free speech. And like, I don't dabble too deep into politics and stuff like that, but like I go onto Twitter, and I'm supposed to be looking at pro wrestling pages, and you got like a fuck Trump, or you got like a fuck Biden, or you got like the Make America Great Again. You got to make this and make that. Then everybody's alienating each other because their own little opinions. Dude, fuck you guys. Get the fuck off. Grow the fuck up. Everybody has their own free will. Everybody has their own purpose. They get to do whatever they want to do. Like, can we get the bigger picture, and can we not do? So I was very, very, very like, I don't even know how to tackle Twitter. I don't know how to It's not like Facebook and Instagram. Like, I'm a little bit, it's a different vibe. So I'm going to dabble into it. I'm going to tread very, very lightly, but it's too sad, because even a lot of the people, and I'm not going to say any names, but I never saw these sides of people, and I never saw like, I never saw this. And then it's like, then you see the hypocrisy in people. But like I said, it goes back to the thing. It's like, yo, man, you know, it's natural for men to do fucked up things, you know, and to make mistakes. So you can't blame, you know, I don't try to blame and condemn people for the mistakes they made. Hey, you shit on me for this, and you shit on me for that. Or like, you know, you make this guy hard for this, you make that hard for that. But hey, man, you're just as guilty, and you're kind of an asshole. You know, you say, hey, don't anti-bully this, anti-bully that, but then you go completely obliterate one guy because he votes for Bernie or he believes in Bernie, or then you go completely obliterate someone because they're a Trump supporter. You know, like you said, you can anybody can argue any point, you know, but it's like to see the division and to see like the fingers pointed. It's just sad, dude, because it's like, damn, man, we're all on the same team. And then it's another thing, and that's another kind of thing that I would say is problem with the business now is that there's a lot of there's a little bit too much of there's too much Mickey Mouse bullshit, and I feel like it makes independent wrestlers look like, you know, less of what we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's good, man. It discredits us on a long way.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
wish we could kind of all be professional, keep stuff like that out. But hey, man, I'm a spoke on a wheel and I can't say shit. And the way Twitter is now, it's like you get canceled for saying anything. I'm seeing people like, you know, it's like, I don't know. I don't even know how to jump into Twitter realm, dude. It's a negative ass world. It's kind of sad. It's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, even at one point I got like caught into it. And one time, I don't talk about this all the time, but one time, quite a few months ago, I got into an argument with Matt Hardy's wife, of all people, on Twitter once. I'm not going to go into details, but it was this stupid, petty fucking argument. And then looking back on it, like, personally, I don't know Rebby personally or even Matt, but, like, I'm not her biggest fan. She has an extensive track record of just being unnecessarily rude at times. However, looking back on it, I shouldn't have antagonized in the way that I did. And you know, that was a different time for me as well. But yeah, that's my big problem with Twitter is you can say something, like, from years ago that's completely not relevant now, and people will lose their shit over it and try to cancel you, and it's ridiculous.
And it's so contradictory because it's like, how the fuck do you get better at anything without failing?
Yeah.
You go to, and here's the thing, I'm not trying to call anybody fucking stupid, or I'm not trying to call anybody wrong or tell anybody wrong, because, dude, as a man, you shouldn't, you know, you realize, okay, yes, you have your beliefs, but as a man, you don't disrespect like another man's beliefs, and you don't discredit another man, because like it's just that mutual respect. But a lot of times, like, man, you know, like, you've been educated, you like, do you know like what the fuck's actually going on? You open up a history book, you know what's going on. Like, you look at all the big philosophies, you look at all the big historians, you look at all the Greek philosophers, anything. The way for success and the way for growth is by fault, is to, and like, you can put it in many different ways. It's like, oh, you make the same mistake, you make the mistake, and then you finally get it. Other guys will say you slam your dick in the door too many times and you realize not to do that. And then other people say, oh, through experience, you gain to find what the right way and the wrong. How does one do what they're supposed to do, the natural instinct of human to get better, if you can't get better because nothing goes back? Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, nothing, you know, it's contradictory. So yeah, man, that's one thing, and I appreciate that. Because I was warned about Trinity. They said it's a different world. And they said, you know, like, oh, we'll cancel someone. Like, some guy told me, he's like, oh, Twitter's a different world. Like, we'll cancel you for just anything. I'm like, fuck I'll slap the fucking shit out of you in real life. Like, fuck your Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to, you know, like, and that's nothing. And I don't like bully societies. You know what I mean? And that's what amateur wrestling taught me about. And that's what boxing taught me about. It taught me about the highs and lows in life and how you could be on top of the road and how you can't be on top of the road. And that's why you always have to extend the hand to help. Because if you're really people always used to say, oh, be the bigger man and walk away. But you know what? The problem is a lot of people talk and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And it took me a long time to realize, oh, by walking away, you are the bigger man, because you're not going to hurt this idiot, you know, because he doesn't know. Yeah. So you walk away. Yeah. I started to get that. So I have a problem with people who do bullying type of things, you know, and I got a problem with people who pick on the little guy. And I got a problem with people who like have that pack mentality. Like, you saw what happened to Hannah Kimura. You know, I got big problems with shit like that. And I feel like Twitter, and I feel like Instagram, and I feel like the wrestling world too, you know, because I remember I had a couple arguments on Facebook with like a bulky promoter from like my area, and it's like, then all their little minions start to chime in and everything like that. And I argued with all of them. It's funny, they're telling me how much a child I am, this and that. And at the time, I'm in college, so I don't have a job, I don't have shit, and I'm literally on Facebook all day. And I'm not saying that people who are on Facebook all day, but I carried on an argument with 35 and 32-year-old men 24 hours on Facebook. How the fuck grown up are you? You know what I mean? You get it? So it's like, I kind of have like I don't like that fact about the wrestling culture sometimes, how it's kind of like a gang mentality and how they like kind of gang up on people and and make no mistake, dude, a lot of these guys deserve to be outed. A lot of these guys should not be where they are. A lot of these guys, a lot of people have been just exposed for scumbags. But then again, that's that reason why the Greek philosophers like Democritus, Marcus Aurelius, all these people, they talk about balance in life, because one or too much of one thing is too bad. That's why you have to have moderacy. Not me
Exactly,
being Mr. Philosopher, but that's just me like growing as a human and like, finally all these things are clicking for me. So now I figure like, why not voice them? Maybe I can like point you guys or plant the seed, or anything. If I could help, that's all. If I could help in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
I'll heed that lecture for as far as Twitter goes, And
man.
I think everybody's opinion on that and like ways for me to get better, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy how people in this day and age act like if you have a disagreement or difference of opinion, that's like the end of the fucking world. There's nothing wrong with having a disagreement or difference of opinion. We're human beings, man. I mean, it's ridiculous. But yeah, like I said, just figured I'd give you some advice on Twitter. Just fucking be careful. That place is a cesspool of negativity and dumbasses. So
Yeah.
watch out.
It's
Yeah.
sad. It's
Let's
really sad.
yeah. Nick, one final question and we'll get into outros.
Yeah. Hmm. Man, I tell you what, I'm on a blank here because I want to ask I want to ask a multiplicity of questions, but they all kind of go towards the same unknown abyss, and it's almost like, well, what's next for us all? What do we want to do now? Like, what's next on the game plan? Like, what's next on my game plan is to get a little bit bigger, get a little bit stronger, get a little bit more TV ready. I'm going to a lady to get my hair cut up. I'm not gonna. My dad wants me to keep it long because he wants me to be a heel, and he says, oh, if you go to AEW, you got to be a heel because Cody's a babyface, and he has his own angles he has in his mind. And then he always said, being a heel is good because you could, all the top heels back in the day used to get top dollars. The baby faces get top dollars, but like the Sheiks used to get ridiculous amount of money. The Bull Currys that are like, the Von Erichs, like the hated ones, like there's a lot of stock in them. There's a lot of added value. But yeah, man, I'm gonna get the new gear. I'm gonna get the new promo pictures. I'm gonna get new shirts. I'm gonna get everything I'm supposed to do, and I'm gonna do all those different things. But as far as what's next for me, I'll answer my own question. I'm starting back up in ring training. I'll be honest with you guys, I never stopped. I had a private gym and I went to that gym and I never stopped because, like for me, like this is like my life and this is my escape and this is like the way for me to like get better and fight my demons. And if I lose that, then I lose my life. So the risk of, getting the coronavirus, it was very scary, but like, and I traded cautiously, but I was willing to take any risk for the reward. And I have never stopped, but I've gotten better. I put a lot of emphasis on lifting. I put a lot of emphasis on different things. Right now, before the quarantine stopped for me, which it hasn't, it has stopped, but it hasn't stopped. I just went back to work. So before I went back to work, I was around 203 pounds, 204 pounds. Right now, hate to say it, but it's honest. It's 190 pounds. Now I'm bumping back up to like 195. So I'm at that weird weight where I'm trying to get a little bit bigger, but then I'm not trying to get fat, and I don't want to lose any like athleticism. But now it's time for me to, because I never lifted weights a day in my life. Because I had my cockiness and my ego, and I listened to a lot of old school boxers that said never lift weights because it gets you tight and you lose your strength and your speed, which was true. But then again, when you're at a high level, man, you got to do everything. That's why people take steroids, because when you're at a high level and you're at 100, who's going to win? 99 or 99.1? 99.1. So you got to do anything you can to get that extra little. And that's what people don't know. A lot of people say, oh, don't take steroids, don't take this and that. Like, and you got to think, oh, you're an asshole for taking steroids. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm taking steroids, but if you look at the philosophy behind it and you're honest, that guy was willing to do everything. He was willing to risk he was willing to go into the unknown for an unpromised. Then it's like, man, yes, sir.
Well,
You guys got like it. new job coming up, or just anything wrestling related, anything related.
I need to get a job. I gotta stop staying inside and jerking off all day.
I tell you what, for me, it doesn't matter if I have a job or if I don't have a job. That's the ample asset of my life. That's what I told this guy. Blow up my hand at work. I said, bro, if you'd have took my right hand from me, I would have had to kill you because you'd have took away my most fucking favorite activity. No.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good cardio too.
Now the unfortunate thing is, you mentioned that you want to come up to Maine someday. Up here in Maine, in the small piece of shit middle of nowhere town that I live in, there are not a lot of job opportunities. So like I'm gonna have to like get my shit together and move somewhere and save up some money so I can get a job in a place where there's actually places to get jobs. So
Yeah.
That's really my thing. I just turned 18, and I was nervous when I was turning 18 and the weeks leading up to it, because I was like, this is kind of a big deal. It's a bit of a big responsibility. I have more sense of freedom. This is a big deal. But yeah, I just got to get a job, and I live in the middle of fucking nowhere. I don't know if you know where it is, but I live in the northern part of Maine, and it's a small town called Medway. It's fucking horrible.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, it's dear. Well, I'm born and raised in Millinocket, if you know where that is.
That's a old, like, it's not Inuit, but it's an old Indian. It's an Indian name. See, my dad, when they used to go to like the maritime territories like Moncton, New Brunswick, and go to like the Nova Scotia and Montreal and shit like that, they used to go through Caribou, Maine. Which is not that far. Well, I mean, it's a little, but it's right in the same vicinity, northern Maine, like East Bumblefuck practically. But, it's like, that's neat though, man. I tell you what, like I said already before, dude, we all stay in contact. We're all friends, dude. You guys got friends with me for life. So when I'm in your area, you let me know, man. Fucking, if I can, dude, I'll come by, swing by, have a good freaking time. But yeah, all right. So that's cool. So you're trying to like get out, venture out of, Maine and get a job and.
Yeah, because I'm born and raised in Millinocket. Millinocket's my hometown, and while that town, it's very small, there isn't much to do there. Like, that town holds a very special place in my heart because it's where I grew up. And whenever, like, recently I hung out with a friend of mine, and he lives in Millinocket. In Medway, Millinocket, it's a 15-minute drive away from both of them. And I hang out with him in Millinocket. And, like, I was just there, and I felt so at home. I said to him, let's just go for a fucking walk down the street. Why not? And whenever, like, I know that town in the back of my hand, I know where everything is. It's just such a lot of the people there are dicks, and there's, like I said, there's really not much to do for activities, but just, like I said, because it's where I grew up, it is my home to me in my heart. And, and over the course of last summer, I had to move to a different place, and then for some unknown reason, my mother chose Medway. And what's funny is I was always like, man, there's nothing to do in Millinocket. Yeah, there's even less to do by some miracle in fucking Medway. There's even less to do. It's so bad. But yeah, I love Millinocket to death. And honestly, like, before I ever even consider moving out of Maine, I'm not even gonna lie, I want to move back to Millinocket. Not permanently, but temporarily, just so I can get a goddamn sense of what home feels like again. You know what I'm saying? I love that. I just love Millinocket to death. Again, a lot of the people there are assholes. I consider myself to be one of the ones who turned out not being an asshole. I try not to be one, but a lot of people there are dicks. But at the same time, like I said, I grew up there. I spent countless days there. I mean, from the ages of like, when I was born until, now even, like that is my home. And whenever I'm there, I'm so happy. Like, something just comes out of me. I don't know what it is. Like I said, when I hung out with my friend and we were just walking around, like, I was just fucking ecstatic to be there. And it's really weird how that happens. But yeah.
I'll go next. Well, gotta keep podcasting. Gonna start college very soon, hopefully. And just live life, Attend as many wrestling events and concerts when this stuff's over. Just drain my bank account.
Yeah.
Take it all. Steve,
All right.
what are you?
I'm training right now. My personal trainer is actually in this group call. His name is James down there. Well, for me, I'm training again and shit because I want to be a wrestler, and I'm also learning a lot of, I'm getting a stereo system in my house because another dream of mine is to make music. There's 3 things I want to do in life on my top 3 bucket list. 1, get signed to a professional wrestling company. 2, be featured in a song with 6ix9ine, and 3, be featured in a song with Chris Brown. So if I can do those 3 things, man, I will die happy whether I die young or die old. As long as I can get those out the way, I will be fucking the most happiest dude on earth. And also, I want to learn how to make songs in like other languages, like Spanish songs or my native language or whatever it is. Branch out, making
And hey,
music.
dude, man, just remember, and it's corny, and a lot of people can't fucking explain it because they don't know what they're talking about, and they haven't been there. They've only been on the outside and looking in. They lack the depth. But dude, I'm telling you, there's no bullshit behind it, and it's easy to get negative. There's easy to think you can't. People don't, and it's fucked up reality, man. You gotta think, man. We all die alone, so it's like we're all putting in our own fucking casket. So it's like it's hard for another guy to see someone and say, "Hey, I want you to," because if you could choose, everybody wants to be that top guy. They want to be there. You know what I mean? So that's like kind of like that drives that. But dude, when I tell you that it's fucking possible, and that I've seen people do shit that's incredible, and you wouldn't have thought. I saw someone that came from the most disadvantaged, and now he's working for Goldman Sachs and he's getting paid like $250,000 a year. I knew someone who was the complete wimp, had nothing, this and that, and then he worked hard and he busted his ass, and now he's a national champion. I know someone who was just a happy-go-lucky goofball and like kind of like went through a few things, and then he flipped the switch in his brain and he became a state New England all-state, like things that are impossible. Going to places and thinking of things that are impossible. The possible is possible. It's very simple, but it's hard to execute. And then that's why it's hard because, dude, to do a lot of things, you have to have the support. You have to have your mental down. You have to have a lot of things down. But it is possible. It'll take a little while, but just know one thing, that it's not about what happens now, or it's not what happens, in one of my promos, and I got some good promos coming out. One of my promos I'll talk about how, like, on the way here is that my answers had to go under the moonlight and get it that way. So you guys can laugh during the day, but when the day turns to night and you come into my domain, then you'll cry, because I cried. It's like you cry first, like you cry now, but you'll laugh later. You could laugh now, but you're gonna cry in the end. So it's like at the end is what matters. It doesn't matter if I'm up 25-1 and in the last round I get knocked the fuck out or whatever the hell happens. It's like, stay in the fight, dude, because persistence overrides adversity, and that's the truth. And it's easy, and it's crazy. We're in America, man. Everybody in America shares privilege, bro. If you think about other types of like the world, you'd be ignorant to say you don't. Now, obviously, for things that are going on, certain parts, and everybody got like, there is exceptions, but like with that privilege comes like, it's easy to just get that little okay. It's easy to just be normal. It's hard to be different. It's hard to get where you want to get to, especially when you got people trying to feed you lies, feed you the wrong way, and especially when shit's easy for us. We got running water. We have a roof over our head. We have a lot of things that the person that doesn't have that, has a deeper drive for. So if it's true, and if you just meditate towards it, or you put the time towards it, and if you do it the right way and you prepare yourself, and then like you have like, and I tell you what, one of the good things is like a very, very, very intelligent man spoke to me about a lot of things, and kind of enlightened me, and he gave me 4 big things of life. And those 4 big things are virtue, ethics, morality, and transcendence. And that is kind of like the key to becoming like somewhat of what you want to do. And it's stated in different philosophies, and it's stated in the Greek philosophy. They actually have like ethos and different names for it. But like, think about those 4. Think about like the ethic. Think about the virtue. Like you have to have the work ethic, because you don't have the work ethic, you'll never get anywhere. But you also have the virtue, because whether it's in a sprint or whether it's writing your name, you're going to do the best that you can no matter what. You have to have the morality, because you won't be able to just someone to drop $1,000 in front of you. But if you have low morality, you won't be able to, you'll pick that up and you do something shady. And at the end of the road, doesn't matter who you are, dude, that clock ticks in your brain. That's why all these big criminals, all these big bad guys, or no matter who it is, whether they're good guys or not, if their morality is not there, you know what happens, they blow their brains out. So it's like, that's why you have to have that. And you have to have the transcendence to be able to look past certain things and look at the bigger picture and then look at like a greater cause. So those are things that was able to like, and that's why that song voices in my head. Like, dude, it's a deep song, and I don't want to like scare anybody about anything, but it's like, that's why it makes sense, because like, and that's one thing that helped me is like, if you guys can remember anything out of this thing, I'd love you to remember everything I said that was nice about my grandfather and all the knowledge. But dude, just know that you can, and just know that people will try to fuck you over along the way, and it'll become in different forms and different shapes. They'll look like your friend, it'll look like your supporter, it'll look, you can never know, But if you keep high virtue, you keep high ethics, morality, and transcendence, that'll give you the basis to be able to do something special and to do something right. And you'll be able to, if you have all those four, you'll be able to spot the bullshit, and you'll be able to like shine bright. And at the end of the day, your hand will get raised because you were that guy,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's about. So man, if you have those dreams, you have those aspirations, just know that you can do it. And like a lot of people, they say, well, Nick had, like a lot of my friends, they like, oh, Nick does this, then Nick does that, or like I do this, I do that, and it's like, well, what about Nick? But some people, they go to certain avenues and they want to be on the fast track to wealth. And they want to be on the fast track to things, and people say, well, Nick has a dream. No, I don't have it. Like dream, that's good, and that's another thing. Say positive words. Try to eliminate negativity. Negativity is around. It's always, one of my coaches always talked about it. I hate negativity. Don't say any negative word. He was a high-strung, Olympic athlete. And he talked about being selfish and how being selfish is not. And this is the yin and yang, though. But he's talking about being selfish and how you have to be selfish, because if you're not selfish, you're not going to want it. But it's like, if you have that, if you have that high work ethic, if you have all those things will work out for you. And if you can, if you do it the right way, you'll be able, and you'll make mistakes, and just remember that it's okay to make mistakes. And that's the fucked up thing about Twitter, because you make mistakes, you're condemned, and you're not supposed to be condemned, because there's no way to grow. There's no one's perfect, dude, period.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, virtue, ethics, morality, and transcendence, dude. If those four, you'll be able to, I feel like you'll be able to do some stuff that you really want to do.
Yeah. Antwan.
What's next for me? Well, I'm hoping, once this virus dies down, and I'm hoping with the personal situation I have here at home, hope sooner than later I'm able to start training soon. I have a lot of big goals I'm looking to accomplish, not only just in wrestling, but I'm also looking to do some things outside of wrestling, such as be able to grow my Twitch channel and start a gaming, like have this gaming venture where I'm communicating with the fan base, from a broader standpoint, and be able to connect with the community, and also I have aspirations. I want to do voice acting. I want to take on some stuff in cartoons and anime and whatnot, So those are things I want to be able to accomplish. I'm looking to a lot of different schools at the moment. While at the same token, I'm also doing from time to time. I'm doing landscaping work. So pretty much, I can just say what's next is for me to to just focus on wanting to do training, continue to doing my landscaping work, and just follow my dreams, do my accomplish my goals, and achieve my goals and whatnot. That's what I can say. That's for me.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's that's good, dude, and that's the right mentality to have, dude. That is totally the right mentality to have, and and make sure everybody, another thing is to keep a balance in life too. You got to have the balance. And that's one thing that I didn't have a good grasp on. I thought I could just rein myself with hard work. And that's like, so okay, I've been like, okay, you go hard in the gym, but you need that break, you need that buffer every now and then. So just remember that balance in life that you need. You need that balance in life, you know?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Who's next? Me?
Yeah.
Well, what's for me, I've really just been out of the recent, I guess, last few months, just been focusing on self-development, man. Like I said, I got injured not too long ago. I had my surgery in October, and about that time, I was about like 190 pounds, completely just out of shape because I couldn't work out. I mean, my hand was shattered. Since then, I mean, I have dropped like 25 pounds. I'm in like the best cardiovascular shape of my life, and hopefully, I'll get back into the ring safely. That's the goal. It's not just to get back into the ring; it's to get back in the ring safely and not destroy somebody else or myself. And then I'm a big I'm a big believer in like yourself. What goes around comes around, and right now I'm doing this thing for people where I'm helping them train and I'm giving them complimentary stuff for right now, and it's led to nothing but good things. By me helping people, it led to me meeting Mike. Mike invited me on here, and then me meeting cool people in the wrestling business, and that's been barely 30 days. So I mean, who's to say what's to come in the next 6 months? I just think that if I keep motivating others and keep putting positivity out there, and the truthful information, I think that, like you said, I think later on I'll be able to connect it all and kind of put together as to why it happened the way it happened, why we went under quarantine, So not really stressing about too much, trying to stay focused, man, trying to stay positive. And that's really, I think, what a lot of people, like you said, they just don't, a lot of people don't see the bigger picture. We can be in such a worse position, man. We can be one of those people in those ICU beds. We can be one of those people on a ventilator, and we're not. I mean, we're not. And, it's as simple as that. And I think that there's a lot of political crap on just everywhere right now. And it has nothing to do with politics. It's just political. There's people not really wanting to be real, people getting offended really easily, and just people, like you said, being bullies and stuff. There's no need for that. Not right now. Not during these times.
There's not. And everybody's got to get stuck with the fact that, hey, man, like, it's tough because you look at certain societies, and you look at certain people, and you look at certain parts of history, and okay, you have your Zionism, you have your racism, you have your sexism, you have all these things. But hey, man, we're in America. We all came from different countries and different places, and we left for a better. And we're all coming around, and we're all in the same fucking family, and we're all from the same country. We need to all, because that's what we are as Americans. And it's easy, to get misconstrued, but I have faith in America, and I have faith in Americans, because I think we are the big melting pot. We are the great society, and I think that, given the proper, challenge, we will come up and we will, arrive. But hey, not to cut anything short, it's been like damn near almost 4 hours.
We're gonna go to outros right now. Right after you were done talking, we were gonna go to outros.
Yeah, I gotta get going soon. So, but yeah, man, that's all from Nick.
Yeah. So Nick, you can do your outro first, man. Plug anything, whatever you want.
All right, dude. Follow the Tuck Your Chin podcast, because you're dealing with the right guys that's doing things the right ways. So, hey, in essence, keep buying and keep doing from the right boys, Kid Curry. Check your boy out at Tuck Your Chin podcast, and you can follow me on Instagram at epitome_prodigy. And my Twitter handle is pretty much the same thing, Nick Curry, Kid Curry, third generation, Wild Bull Curry, Flying Fred Curry. And then I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. So if anybody liked the podcast, you feel free to completely hit me up. And, I'm always around, and I'm in the Hartford, Connecticut area, and I'm in the, the Massachusetts area. So if anybody's ever around, ever want to train, anything like that, DM me, dude. I could put you on, and we can have a little bit of fun. And, yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. And hey, dude, this is just the start, and this is just the plant for the seed, man. We're gonna have a lot of good times from the past, especially us four right here, us five. We're gonna have some fun, man. We're gonna grow some memories and do a few things. And once more, thank you for letting me speak and talk and giving me that inspiration. Appreciate it.
Antwan.
Well, Thanks for watching, everyone. It's been great to be able to come back to the podcast again. As always, you can follow me at Dark Rebel Ant. And until then, take care.
Evan.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into this podcast, and of course, it was great to have Nick Curry on. We had great conversations, talked about some multiple ranging topics and such, and yeah, remember to wash your hands and wash your ding dong and such, and yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Ronald_Van_Donald.
All right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll do mine.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you, Nick, for all the insight and most importantly for the inspiration, the positivity. Go follow this man. I mean, keep up with his career. He's probably one of the most genuine individuals I've ever met. Go follow me on Instagram, JamesTM316, just like Austin316, and keep updated with us. We're going to keep providing entertainment for you all.
Yeah. Plug guy, it's time for the plug. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
So you're at all of our Instagrams. Follow our socials. It will be in the description below. And pick up at merch at Bonfire, also in the description below. Now, you can follow us at Tech Kitchen Podcast on Instagram, at YourTuck on Twitter. Follow me at I'mSteep_ on Instagram and Twitter. Buy music, listen to our podcast wherever you go. Make us the fastest rising podcast, and make sure you wash your hands and wear a mask, please, and thank you.
Yeah. My turn. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Nick, thank you again for coming on, man. It was good catching up. It's been a few years. And thank you for watching this 3-hour episode. And we got so in depth, man. So I didn't even look at the time.
Damn near 4. We did good.
Damn near 4 hours, dude. Let's see if YouTube's happy with me. So. Most importantly, the golden rule: do not forget to tuck your chin. Peace.